Okay, I think we got, it's just about as rated. We're going to get it. Praise y'all. Let's get it. Let's get it. Alrighty. Hold on 1 second, TikTok. I think you the last. What we're going to get. Let's get it. Hold on. Take this background off. We can finally get started. Alrighty. Okay. I think we got just about everything we're going to get set up. All right. Forgive me. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer. And it is in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Aman. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao. Namaste. Hosai, Anikituwa, Ohio. I see you. Manut, Wagwan, Jambo, Bimini Kofi, Nidifrako, Katana Noe, Akuaba, Madaase, Itese, Kamsamida, Chow, yeah, I think we've covered pretty much all of them. Grand rising to you, Boker Tov, Boker Tav, Bakwatav, Badakala Chubby Hava, and like Kofi Kohelet, at Servants of Christ, Mashiach Ki. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. We appreciate your presence today. Thank you for being with us. And we're excited to be in your presence one more again. Amen. Thank you for your prayers. We made it back. So we are back at the at our normal residence, if we say it like that. God has blessed us to where I really don't own much of anything, but people allow us to have certain places that we have, in fact, made sure that we've sown into to have some form of ownership over whatever, sovereignty terms. I'd have to go into a lot of different things, but long story short, we made it back to what we would call our residence and stuff that we're leaving for generations to come. And so we're thankful and grateful and appreciative to you all for being on with us. And we honor you being on with us today. We are going to get ready to go into today's subject matter. It is a Sunday, and we do go longer on Sundays just because people usually have more time, and so do we. We will not take up too much of your time, though. That being said, we'll get ready to get into some scripture. We will say hello to everybody real quick and jump right in, but if you want to go ahead and get ready for your Bible pledge, get ready to go to scripture with us, we appreciate you. We are going to be going to John chapter 12. If you'd like to go ahead and turn there with us, we'll be going to John chapter 12. And we'll start somewhere. Let's see where we want to start. We'll be starting. Matter of fact, we'll start at verse 9. John chapter 12, verse 9. And then we'll go ahead and read through verse, I believe we'll be starting at verse 16. Right? I believe we'll be starting at verse 16, or stopping at verse 16. But we'll go to John chapter 12. We'll start at verse 9. If you want to go ahead and turn there, once you have it, say amen. Say I got it, say I'm with you. If you want to get ready for the Bible pledge, we appreciate you doing so. I'm trying to get these angles together. I believe everybody should be able to see me fine. Thank you for joining us on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. We appreciate your presence so much. We very much so do. Once again, we're going to John chapter 12. We'll be reading verses 9 through 16. In the meantime, let's say hello everybody on all these platforms. Once again, if you're on, and I'm sorry, we give all honor and praise to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful for everything she does for the diaspora. Now, we appreciate you guys being on. So, and shalom to everybody. How you doing, Sister Carla? How you doing, Coach Prospect? How you doing, Minister Samantha Ray? Everybody on Facebook, how you doing? How you doing, Seraphim? Okay. Is that all you got? Well, grand rising to you anyways. We appreciate your presence. How you doing, Sister Deborah? You gotta be a little better, right? I've seen that one before. That's easy, right? But how you doing? Janet, how you doing? Bruna, how you doing? Sheila, how you doing? Sister Kimberly, Sister Sherry, como está? Mi hermana, Lance, Chantel, Yakas, my guy, Big Brother Thomas, everybody, Lada and everybody. We have Not Happening Me, Noel, Dark Matter, Linda, JP, everybody, Gregory, Breezy, Sister Bree, hey, how you doing, Mr. Troy, everybody who's on. If I miss your name on any of the platforms, shout to my head, not to my heart. We appreciate everybody being on today. Thank you so much for being on. Because of the setup, especially on YouTube, I might be even slower than usual getting to your comments or whatever, but I promise you I will do my best to get to you ASAP. How you doing, Beck? How's everybody doing? Alrighty. How you doing, Sister Iska? Everybody. Once again, we're going to John chapter 12. We're going to start at verse 9. We will more than likely stop at verse 16 or through verse 16, John 12, 9 through 16. So if you haven't, once you ever say amen, say I got it, I'm with you. And if you're able to reverence the word of Yah in any kind of way, including if you are able to stand, or if you just set aside some time, if you just had a quiet place, obviously if you're on the road or if you're at your jobs or whatever the case might be careful. But if you're able to join us for the reading of Yahweh's word, we would definitely appreciate you doing so. How you doing, Minister Shante? All right, I see some amens, some amens, some goddess. Alrighty. Voice is coming back a little bit, praise Yah. Okay, so let's go ahead and read once again. We're going to John chapter 12, verses 9 through 16. And I apologize on TikTok, I didn't put the theme up. I just realized I didn't put the new theme up for today. Please forgive me. How you doing, Brother Dwayne? Alrighty, so once again, John chapter 12, we're going to start at verse 9. And it reads as follows. It says, much people of Yehovah, or of the Jews, therefore knew that he was there. And they came not for Yehoshaphat's sake only, but that they might see Lazarus also. So Lazarus has just been resurrected, right? So that they might see Lazarus also, whom he had raised from the grave. But the chief priests consulted that they might put Lazarus also to death. All right? They consulted that they might take the life of Lazarus as well. Okay, verse 11. Because that by reason of him, many of Yehovah, many of the Jews, many of those who follow the way, right? Many of the Jews went away and believed on Yehoshaphat. The problem is if we follow Yehoshaphat, right? Or if Yehoshaphat shows his power, if we show the power of the Most High, Yah, and Yehoshaphat, we become a problem because the people leave the beast. They leave the Sanhedrin. They even leave the beast that's in the pulpits, and they begin to follow and become part of a new nation. All right, how you doing, big world? Let's keep on going. Then now we're in John chapter 12, verse 11. Oh, let's read verse 10 again. Sorry, verse 9 again. Let's read verse 9 again. Sorry. Much of the nation of Yehovah, of the Jews, therefore, knew that he was there and came not just for the sake of Yehoshaphat only, but that they might see Lazarus also, whom he had raised from the dead. But the chief priests consulted that they might put Lazarus also to death, because that by reason of him many of Yehovah, many of the Jews, went away and believed on Yehoshaphat. On the next day, much people that were come to the feast, when they heard that Yehoshaphat was coming to Jerusalem, took branches of palm trees and went forth to meet him and cried, Hosanna, Barak, Malacheh, Yehoshaphat. Hosanna, blessed is the King of Israel that cometh at Sham in the name of Adon, in the name of the Lord, in the name of Yehovah. And Yehoshaphat, when he had found a young ass, a young donkey, sat thereon, and as it is written, fear not, Bat at Zion, or fear not, daughter of Zion, behold, the king cometh, sitting on an ass's colt. These things understood not his disciples at first, but when Yehoshaphat was glorified, then it came back to the remembrance, that these things were written of him, and that they had done these things unto him. Let's say our Bible pledge real quick. I apologize. This is my Bible. This is my sword, and this will I trust, for Yehoshaphat is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard, for this is my Bible, and this is Yah's word. Hashem Yehovah, Amen. Amen. Right? We just read John chapter 12, verses 9 through 16. May you have a blessing to the readers, hearers, and especially the doers of his most holy word. You may be seated in the presence of Yah. Go back to what you were doing. Thank you so much for referencing the word with us. How you doing, Shoe Queen? How you doing, Tamara? How you doing? Or Tamara, excuse me. How you doing? Everybody coming on. We appreciate you. Thank you, Bruda, for seeing that. Appreciate you. So today we're going to talk about beastly assassination. Beastly assassination. I'm on. Beastly. How you doing, Sister Mignon? Beastly. Now, what is the beast? What does the beast represent now? I know people have all this different stuff for the beast, but the Bible is very consistent on what is a beast. The beast represents what? What does the beast represent? We can make it just real plain as the nose on your face, right? We know. I'm not talking about what does the beast do, what is parts of the beast. I'm talking about overall. When we say the beast, what are we referring to? What are we talking about? The cosmos, the system, the government, right? Even the word government is literally just talking about, right, the beast. It's talking about who's over you. It's talking about the system that's used to be over you, right? So, and thank y'all for the love. So today we're talking about beastly assassination. Beastly assassination. We say it one more again. Beastly assassination, right? If we want to be honest about this now, there's a lot of assassinations that happen to our people consistently, over and over again, right? And it's consistent, right? Beastly assassinations are very consistent with our people, where people are constantly having their lives taken over and over again, and they have a consistent fight. And the beast keeps targeting a specific people over and over again. Now, I'm not going to say that nobody else outside of some of the nations we're going to talk about, including our nation, and really a lot of them being of our nation, I'm not going to say that there is nobody else. But today we're going to focus on this because I want you to recognize the reason why they're trying to assassinate your character, the reason why they try to assassinate Hebrew character, if you know the Hebrew characters, the reason why they try to assassinate culture, the reason why they try to tell you things don't matter unless it comes to a certain prism is because if it's against the beast, it must die, as far as the world is concerned. And thank you for the love, right? And how you doing, Digital Eyes? If it's not the way the beast or this government has put it in position, then it has to go. And I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm saying this right, veal sensors? I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. Welcome board, how you doing? Right? The beast must be in charge. We're talking about beastly assassinations. How does the beast go about assassinating a people? Anybody who shows certain characteristics must go. This is why you have to be careful. When you say, for Elohim I live and for Elohim I will lose my life, you are not off the word, because there's a lot of people who are coming for you because of who you represent, right? Anything that is not beastly, it must be assassinated. If it's not something that comes against Yahushalom, it must go. You might not want to hear me say that, but that's the truth. If it's anti-beast, then it must go, because the beast is anti-Christ. It is anti-anointed. How you doing, Brother Ali? How you doing, Sister Monica? If it's not beastly, can I say that one more again? I want to make sure we're on the same page. If it is not beastly, then it is not anti-Christ. See, if it's anti-beast, then it's of Christ. If it's anti-Christ, then it's a beast. Let's not try to squabble over that. That's very specific, but that's really on the nose, right? If it's not anti-beast, then it's Christ. If it's not anti-Christ, then it's beast. There's no in between. I know people like to have you in this in-between place, but look, go back to World War II and start looking at, go back to World War I and start looking at trench warfare, which existed way before then, by the way, but it became popularized during that time because people couldn't move in certain ways because technology and skills and all that stuff had grown. So when you look at trench warfare, if you're in between the trenches and they start firing at each other, just because you want to claim neutral space doesn't mean you will not get shot. How you doing, Sharon? Is it Sharon or Sharon? Please forgive me. I'm not sure which pronunciation, right? But just because you're in the middle of the Allied forces and the Axis powers doesn't mean that you won't get shot if they start shooting at each other. So your whole claim to being neutral, what does that matter? Because everything, according to 2 Esther chapter 6, tells us that all of the issues of mankind is in between the ankle and the hand, right? It's in between Esau and Jacob. That little in between right here, that little holding on to, latching on to, all the issues are right there. You can try and play an in-between thing or say that I'm not with it, or say that I'm not worried about it, or say that it's not really a big deal, or this and that, or whatever. But at the end of the day, war is going on and bullets are flying. Be ready. How you doing, Sister Nadine? There's plenty of people who worked around warehouses that were targeted, or worked in warehouses that were women and children, and thought nothing of it and said, hey, I'm not involved in this, but you're still targeted, because whether you like it or not, whether you're neutral or not, if you're making money off of it, if you're living near it, if you're executing your lifestyle near it, guess what? Somebody's going to come at you because you are feeding some part of somebody's war machine. Come on. I just want to keep it a buck. We're so busy trying our hardest to ensure that we make sure that we please all sides. And the reality is that beastly assassinations come because everybody has to stay in line. Usually people that are neutral are usually people that just want to go ahead and stay in line. Make sure that they are just enough, capitulating just enough to whoever is their captive or captor, or who has captivated them and made them captive. They're trying their best to play both sides of the fence. But no matter how you want to go about this, you're in the vicinity of, if not directly in the line of fire. And so you got to pay attention to the beastly assassinations. Who is it that the beast, who is it the government, who is it that the West constantly and consistently targets? Because as much as we don't want to admit it or say it in these terms, because that means that we'd have to admit that we might be dropping the ball. The reality is that the beast keeps targeting Yahashadam. Right? I mean, we're going to talk about some of these names today, but I mean, who is and who did Gaddafi promote and protect? Right? Who is it that Fidel Castro promoted and protected? Who is it that Nzinga, you would call her Queen Nzinga, you guys know how we feel about that word queen because we know what it means. Nevertheless, who was Queen Nzinga, or who was Nzinga? Who did she represent? And who did she defend? Who is Sheba or Sheba? Who is even though we don't believe him to be the Christ, like my Rastafari brethren would, but who is Haile Selassie? What is his bloodline? Not only what do we say, or what does somebody else say, well, you're an Israelite, or you say you're an Israelite. No. What did he say? What did the people of Ethiopia, what did the Cushitic people, what did the Nubian people call him? And what was their claim to who he was? Who did he protect? Who did he try to protect? And ultimately, how was he gotten rid of? Who does the beast keep targeting in these beastly assassinations? Right? Who is, and we're going to go through these people over time today, but I want to take time out to show you why the beast wants to assassinate us and assassinate our culture, assassinate our people, and then have us be looking crazy and try to say, see, there's another crazy person. And you must admit, pray for people such as myself. Pray for yourselves too, right? I pray for you, and hopefully you do the same for me, because I recognize that the fact that I'm talking about this, the only reason why people aren't coming at me in more, because a lot of people don't know, I do get attacks and people that follow me around and stuff to a certain degree, and I know that there's people who actually listen in on conversations that I have, and that's why I have to bounce around, and there's signal issues that we have that people don't think about. But I'm not as big as a Gaddafi, you know what I'm saying? I'm not as known as a Sylvanus Olympio, right? I'm not as known as a Thomas Sankara, right? I'm not as known as a Selene Pinland. I'm not as known as Dr. Miles Monroe. I'm not as known. See, but these people, they affect government. And the government, once again, is the beast. Thank you, Sister Monica. I know you do. I appreciate you. How you doing, Wakam? Right? And I'm just saying, and all these people, we keep seeing the same thing. going on. And when you begin to talk about it, of course, it doesn't make sense. It's against what the beast does. Who are the advertisers? The advertisers are part of the beast. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. The advertisers are part of the beast. There's beastly, and even if you don't like the spiritual terms I'm using, fine, right? The government. If you don't like beast, just put government there. It's the same. We're talking about the same thing, right? And they keep assassinating the character of or assassinating the people of a particular group, period. And if you're going to preach this, if you're going to walk this, if you're going to teach it, if you're going to proclaim it, if you're going to make sure you live in a different type of nation, which we are called to do, by the way, if you're going to hold them accountable to the Constitution, if you're going to go before the UN, you must recognize the United Nations is your united beast. There are a bunch of nations under one banner. Whose banner are they under? Right? We can try to keep dressing this up all you want. It's the same beast. Right? France are the people that dealt with Sankara the way they did. France is the one that did with Olympia the way that they did. France was in the center of Africa. France dealt with Haiti the way that they did, and did Toussaint Louverture the way that they did. It was France who still to this day has many nations, black nations, Israelite nations, Negro nations around the world who are still paying reparations. How are you paying reparations? And you were the people who were taken from, because they shifted the stuff. They don't even believe in what reparations is, because the United Nations says that reparations is supposed to be given to the people who were colonized. And you're supposed to repatriate them, give them their stuff back. You're supposed to give restitution. You're supposed to make sure that they can say that they have satisfaction. But France says, because we had to give up our slaves, give us reparations. Oh, by the way, that's a normal thing. United States of America, during the Civil War, right when the Emancipation Proclamation is being signed, as Abraham Lincoln is offering hundreds of Native Indigenous Americans, the actual Americans, because by law, a real American is an original American at least, is a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas. And as he's offering a bunch of them, right, on your day of when the Declaration of Independence is signed, which by the way means that it was not a law, because just because the president signed a declaration or a little edict or order, it's not a law, right? The war wasn't over, and there were still slaves, and Abraham Lincoln himself was a slave owner. And even in the midst of all that, you know that he's still making sure he's giving reparations to slave owners in Maryland, because it was a little too close to DC, making things look bad, because people were like, how are you going to say that you're going to make this edict, but you still got slave owners in Maryland? So in order to get the Maryland slave owners to be okay with giving up their property and allowing those black folk to now be enslaved in a different way, right? He says, well, this is what we'll do. He says, we'll pay you reparations because you're giving up something. We're going to repatriate you. We'll give you more land. We're going to give you restitution. You're losing stuff. And we're going to ask you as a slave owner, are you satisfied? Now go to the United Nations and you'll recognize, we talked about this in SOC University. If you go to the United Nations, you'll discover that this is wrong. This is jacked up. This is the opposite of how these things should go. Right? This is the opposite of how these things should go. If anything, how do you give reparations to the British? Because that's who you're giving the reparations to. No, we're going to lie and say that now the colonizers should be identified as the colonized. There's never in human history, that's never been the case until the beast started doing it. How you doing, Brother Jermaine? And how you doing, Apostle Dr. Tamar? Thanks for being on. Do you hear what I'm saying? Right? These beastly assassinations. How you doing, Lance? These beastly assassinations where the beast keeps looking for the same thing. We talked about a long time ago, recognizing the patterns. There's a repeat in the pattern. Keep looking at who the beast is targeting. Right? Keep looking at who the beast is targeting, and how the beast also has a second beast. And it says the second beast it looks like a lamb, right? But it sounds like the serpent. This is beastly assassination. You're either with the kingdom, you're either anti-Christ or you're anti-beast. You're either with Christ, anti-beast, or you're with the beast, you're anti-Christ. Right, we can come whichever one. Look at the Vatican. If you want to talk about, look at the Ashkenazi. If you want to talk about, look, and by the way, it's not every Ashkenazi, but I'm just telling you what the stuff is. If you want to talk about the Vatican, the Ashkenazi. If you want to talk about Illuminati, if you want to put in there, call it whatever you will. If you want to just talk about government officials, if you want to talk about education, if you want to talk about the prison system, if you want to talk about school to prison pipeline, if you want to talk about how those prisons have the same setup as your school systems do, whatever way you want to go with this, it's all pointing towards the beast. And who's the head of the beast? Yeah, there is no in between, right? Malcolm X gets shot because he's going to take the case to the UN. And we know this because the same brother that Malcolm X met, who was going to take the European nations to the UN at the same time, was shot the same day as Malcolm was by the same CIA. If you want to talk about Lumumba is somebody where you look at it, it was the United States, England, France, Belgium, and the person who ended up taking over after him, that all came together in a coup. Beast, because he decided to stand up and say that we will no longer worry about representing your interest as the beast. Soon as he said it, you got to take his life down. Because he's an important figure in Africa. They didn't even give him that a chance. As soon as he got elected, they were like, okay, this is going out of pocket. And on this, they probably would have even let him live a little longer had he capitulated in his speech. But when he gave his speech, look at his last speech that he gave, the huge big speech that he gave. When he gave his speech in such a manner that he basically said, like, he didn't say, we're thankful for what you did. He didn't say, thank you for giving us the land. He didn't say, thank you for the opportunity. He didn't bow down at all. He said, you guys have been terrible towards us for years. We have a lot of stuff that we need to do, but we shall be able to make it done. When you stand up in defiance on your first speech and you don't bow down to the beast, here comes the assassination. They had to assassinate his character. They had to get him separated, and then they took his life. Kwame Nkrumah, he does all this stuff. Ghana's on the map. Everybody's in agreement. Everybody's happy. What do? They stop them from being able to make food or from being able to sell the food that they make. They cut off all the stuff. They put all these embargoes on them. All of a sudden, everybody runs them out of Ghana. And the person that helped us to get there, he has to die in exile. And then eventually we bring him back as a hero, as a martyr, after we kicked him out. Because the beast is also very great at being able to infiltrate, to pay off people, to give people whatever's necessary to be able to go ahead and take away their name. Toussaint Louverture is in a place where they had won him, but still feels the need because of infiltration and other things going on that he has to go to France. Goes over to France, they take his life. Right? We have to get to a place where we have to stop going to the beast. Anybody who decides to go against the beast, they must make him look crazy. Look at how they talk about Marcus Garvey, who did nothing but say you should have pride in being you, and you should not allow somebody else to determine who you are from the outside, especially when these people have done nothing but make weaponry out of your marginalization, and being at ease with your scorn and filling you with contempt for yourself has caused them to be able to have the recreation and the procreation that they have had to ensure that they will be established for generations to come. I don't just have to only focus on Hashvan to make this work, because we know what the works of the enemy are. We know what the works of the Most High are. How many people even grew up knowing about Nzinga? How you doing, Minister Burrell? And think about how they try to make her look bad and terrible and all this stuff or whatever, when all she did was fight to make sure you were free. They still talk bad about Shaka. Why? Because Shaka was the one who raised up. Now look, we're not gonna act like these perfect people were without any sin. But let's be honest, they don't care about Shaka being bad or going crazy when his mother passed away or this and that. They don't care about that stuff. They care about the fact that Shaka raised a group of people that would fight them off and be the most embarrassing, at least up to that time for the British, would be the most embarrassing loss that they had ever suffered. How you doing, Auntie Mary? That's what Shaka represents to them. He built a group of people that fought off the British without even having the same weaponry that they did, and beat them down. And if they had been a little less, aggressive, would have been able to actually win and keep their land. This is why Shaka Zulu must be villainized. Not because of bad things he did to his own people. We can talk about those things, but that's not why he's villainized. It's like we talked about with John Brown. John Brown, when we talked about him yesterday, why is John Brown villainized? He's villainized because he was said to have a condition to where he was crazy only when it came to chattel slavery. They believed him to be sane in every area except for when he decided that he needed to fight for the right for black folk to be free. And how you doing, Sister Brendan, Brother Yosef, or Brother Yosef? How you doing? Right? Yeah, no one is perfect anyways. I get that, but I'm just saying. I'm not trying to say these people without fault. Why do they hate Cuba? Sorry, Cubano. I said the name earlier. I'm trying to say Ferdinand. I know that's not right. Castro. Why do they hate Castro so much? They hate Castro so much because Castro actually had a government that came into being. He came to the United States of America first. This is something that people don't talk about with this, by the way. Oh yeah, they still hate Haiti to this moment, definitely. But this is why people don't talk about what is it? Forgive me. Yeah, Castro went to America first, and people don't want to talk about this because that means that you have to realize America decided to have Cuba become their enemy, right? Because they didn't want to give in to people who Castro was over and allow them to be able to have space. Castro was part of another regime, right? Castro and them won a civil war. They realized they didn't have food for their people. They came to America first and said, we'll be a democracy. We'll be like you all. America said, no, we're not feeling that. Why? Because you are not who we wanted to be in power. We're not really concerned about the people having what's necessary. We want puppets. And since you're not the puppet that we were trying to support to win, we'll go ahead and leave you alone. Then that's when Castro starts looking at communism and says, well, if somebody will feed my people, I'll look for anybody. However we got to get it done, is how we get it done. If I got to be this mean dictator, blah, blah, whatever, at least my people will eat. And the people that he comes against, we don't want to talk about this, the people who hate Castro, the people who run to Cuba and hate black people and stuff when they get here and everything, even though you say you look just like us, is because where they come from, they were the white people, so to speak. They were the colonizers. They were the ones that had, while everybody else didn't. And so they run over here real quick talking about, hey, all y'all this and that. They sound the same as what they used to sound like when they were over there. See, we don't want to talk about this stuff. We don't want to have an honest dialogue. We don't want to say, hey, why is it that Grenada had to do what they did? How does Grenada get jacked up the way that they did? Because there was somebody that came into power and said, we're going to build schools, we're going to build hospitals, we're going to do this. Reagan couldn't take that. He said, get them out of here. And they, in a day or two, messed up stuff that was helping out generations of people. Whenever we start to reverse generational curses and somebody comes against the reverse of a generational curse, look at that. That's the beast. That's beastly assassination, right? If you want to assassinate my character, then assassinate it for when my character is exactly what you're saying it is. But don't assassinate my character because my character is righteous. If it is, then I should be willing to resist you, and you better recognize that the Most High is preparing me to make sure that I can protect myself from you. He's going to give me the breastplate of righteousness. He's going to give me the sword, right? That means I have an offensive weapon. Be careful. By the way, the word is the sword. They recognize this in the world. People who speak against the beast and chop the beast down with the words that they speak, especially when it's the words of the Most High, are people are ready to take your life. Be careful what you're getting into. You keep talking about you want truth. Well, just like Malcolm X said, you don't have a bloodless revolution. Right? The French Revolution. What is the French Revolution? The haves versus the have-nots. You got to have blood. This is not a call to arms. This is for educational purposes only. I'm trying to help you out. There is no bloodless revolution. The American Revolution, which is really a civil war because they were fighting amongst themselves. But the American Revolution, was that bloodless or bloody? Right? Stop letting these people trick you and I into believing that there's some kind of sainthood here. Right? How did England come to power? They killed off the indigenous population of England by 50%. Look up William the Conqueror and what he did. Before that, he was known as William the Bastard, but he wanted to be a king somewhere since his father wouldn't recognize him in Normandy. He goes over to England, he makes some really false claim to the throne, and he offs half the people just to start. Just to start. Before he puts the crown on his own head, he offs half the people. That's why they're not Anglo or Anglo. That's why you don't speak Anglo or Anglo. You speak Anglo-ish. You're English. Because how you gonna be the people and you're not really them? You're Anglo-ish. You're English. You're Anglo-ish. You're not Anglo, right? Some of you carry Anglo blood, the ones that had to bow down or the ones that were forced to lay down, right? But they're not Anglo, so they can't be Anglo. They have to be Anglo-ish. Right? They had to destroy. They weren't some pious nation. You think Rome? They call Rome the greatest nation in the world. They try to set up Marcus Aurelius and say, "Do you see the great Marcus Aurelius and what he did? And have you read his diary and how he felt and how he was such a great man? He just had this great sense of righteousness and he was one of the fine emperors." Marcus Aurelius was offing people and causing genocide to happen all around him. And if you got out of pocket, you had to go. You had to have your life taken. Just because people who he considered to be human beings he treated better doesn't mean that he thought that everybody was a human being. Stop it, right? But they want you to believe in your mind. They want you to have this weird place to say, "Oh yeah, but all this stuff." No, this is beastly assassination. Rome's beast. Greece is beast. Persians were beast. Babylonians were beasts. I know you want to pick up the stuff of the Babylonians. We got to get back to the Babylonians. Babylonians were beasts. Look at what they did. Look at how it's real interesting that people will try their best to find whatever inconsistencies they swear they found in the Bible, to be able to say there's one little piece of this, there's one little piece of law. I'm going to try and expound upon it to say how you guys are misogynistic. And Babylon, they rip women apart for fun. What are you talking about? And you're going to go over and listen to the Babylonian way? People are so interested. People have been so taught by the beast that they don't want to talk. They don't want to hear what's going on. Well, I'm sorry if it's lagging. I apologize. This is the best I'm be able to do for y'all today. It is what it is. Sorry about that. If it's lagging too much, right? Right. I hope it's not lagging too much where you guys can't hear. Right? Maybe it is. But all I can go off is the signal that I got today. So thank you guys for being on. Appreciate you. Right. But you hear what I'm saying? There's this beast that we're going with. And we allow the beast to teach our children. So the beast teach our children so often, right, that now our children grow up and they're anti-Christ. Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Right? This is what's going on. Our children have been taught about the beast for so long that they have now become anti-Christ. Right? It's easy to become anti-Christ when you are pro-beast. It is. I know this isn't easy to hear, because this means that we have to admit that we were taught some things that were not righteous, and while we were shouting and praising, we were really into some really wild stuff that actually underlined and undermined every single thing that we were shouting about. Right? We were shouting because we don't lie, but we were learning lies. Because that's beastly. Even if you don't know your character was being assassinated, you were shouting about the one who cannot lie, and yet you were being taught lie after lie after lie, and then didn't realize you were therefore being shapen in iniquity, at least cognitive dissonance, or what you call being double-minded. This is just reality, and we can try to come against it all we like, but the reality is that this is what we were given. And how you doing, Minister Casper? Thanks for being on, and happy born day to you, belated. I know we said it to you on the day of, but happy born day again. This beast is out of control. You said people allow themselves to succumb to the pressure of acceptance leads to beastly activities. That too. How you doing, WIT? How you doing, Drummer Guy? Thanks for being part of the community. So the beast is doing what it's supposed to do. Problem is we're not doing what we are supposed to do. Now let's go back to scripture real quick before we go. deeper because we want to make sure that we catch this now, right? We started at John chapter 12, verse 9. And this is, we catch Yehoshaphat basically, or the people dealing with Yehoshaphat. And there's a bunch of Jews, there's a bunch of Judah, a bunch of Yehoshaphat who's following Mashiach, who's following the Anointed One. Why? We don't think about Yehoshaphat as being revolutionary, but you must recall this. They were coming looking for Yehoshaphat, right? Because they wanted a king, and in their mindset, this is the mindset of it. We don't think about this today. What was it that Yehoshaphat was looking for, and what was Yehoshaphat? If he was going to become their king, then ultimately, what must he become? I'm just trying to help somebody. See, we don't want to talk about the Bible and what it is and its actual nature and what it's doing for a nation and a group of people. If Yehoshaphat is going to become their Messiah, or if he is their Messiah, right? If you're talking about this person who people told you was Jesus and all that, half man, half Zeus, right? Then he has to, well, he'll become a sacrifice, sure. But they're not looking at him as a sacrifice. They're not even thinking about them as that in their mind. And that's a great point, but that's not what they're looking for. Hey, how you doing, Sister Hattie? It's been a while. Praise God for you. Hopefully you've been doing well. How you doing, Dennis McZeal? We got a few Dennises, that's why I said the full name. But in order for Yehoshaphat to become their Messiah, right, what must he be? If he's going to become their king, what must he become? Did I say hello, Omika, earlier? If I didn't, please forgive me. Right? Think about this now. You said until the lion tells his story, tells the story of the hunt who always favored the hunter. Mm-hmm. Right? Think about this now. Once again now. Don't miss this. Don't miss this. If he is going to become their king, that's who the Messiah is. You said one of the people first? Well, he's already one of the people. He's one of the nation, right? People just means nation. What are they expecting him to do? I mean, he's got to be part of the nation, sure. But what is it that we're looking for him to be? The atonement? Okay, cool. Right? We know the sacrifice. I'm talking about what is it? Watch this. Let me say it like this. And I'm glad we're thinking. I'm trying to get us to think differently, right? Because they don't want us to think about this. Your Savior is close to where we're going. If they have a king already, if they have an emperor, a figurehead already, if they have these, what now people call Messianic Jews, but back then we would have just called them Hellenistic Judah, right? What must he become? Military leader is kind of close. It's in the same vein, it's in the ballpark. If he's going to become a king and you already have a king, what must he be? Come on, the one that overthrows the beast. Exactly. He must become their liberator. Don't miss this now. If Yehoshaphat is going to be the king and you already have a king over, remember, the second Maccabees is not just a book in the Bible. There's also two Maccabees movements. The second Maccabees is guerrilla warfare against the Hellenistic Jews who have bowed down to the oppressor of Judah. Judah being three nations at this point that are still left. Judah, Benjamin, and the Levites who had decided to stay, right? So you have 2.5 nations that have stayed. You have 9.5 nations that have left. Right? And these people that are there are being oppressed and now don't even have their own king. And even the kings that they have that does have some Israel blood is more into his Greek blood, right? And so you have this whole thing that's starting to happen where there's a fight going on because they're trying to even force us now to give sacrifices to, to sacrifice pigs in the temple and do all types of wild and weird stuff. Correct? See, so there's even a movement back then. So whoever this Messiah is, they're not just looking for him to come. They didn't realize how liberation would come. This is where we mess up too. Because it's very clear that liberation was going to come the way that they wanted it to come in their flesh. But nevertheless, they were looking for a liberator. Right? There's liberty. They weren't just looking for, oh yeah, come on and, just... you die for our sins and we'll just keep on being in the beast every day. Yeah, they're looking for liberty. They're looking for freedom, liberation. Get us out from under the wicked oppressor. We know we need to get back to the Most High. We're fighting because we're not allowed to worship the way the Most High wants us to. Yehoshaphat comes and he keeps talking about law. Matthew chapter 5, verses 10 through 12. SOC, you knew it was only a matter of time before we hit our sweet spot, right? Matthew 5, verses 10 through 12. Right? Blessed are you when they persecute you and say all manner of evil against you and lie on you for my name's sake. When they do this, rejoice and be exceeding glad. Why? Because they did the same thing to the prophets that came before thee. Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 through 20. Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I came not to destroy, but I came to fulfill, which means to be put into effect or to live inside of. Right? Then verse 18, right after that, it says what? It says, Matthew chapter 5, verse 18, excuse me. Matthew chapter 5, verse 18. So Matthew 5:17 says that 5:18 then says we should not change one jot or tittle until heaven and earth pass. That means the most minuscule of measurements, because every character has a number attached, numerology. And also we should not change even the handwriting it's written in, the yavad, the yao. Then also verse 19 comes behind that. It says, anyone who teaches you that you shouldn't be about the law and therefore doesn't live by the law themselves, they are considered to be the least in the kingdom. But those of you who teach the law and those of you who live by it are considered to be what? The greatest in the kingdom. And verse 20 comes behind it and says that therefore you should know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. Why? Because these scribes and the Pharisees at this time are into Balaam doctrine. They're getting paid. They're sucking up to the ones who were destitute or leave our people in our nation destitute. Then Matthew chapter 7 verse 12 is the whole, what they call the golden rule. You only know half of it. You know the first half of Matthew 7:12, which says, do unto others as you want done unto you. But the whole, holy, the holistic, the whole, the Allah, the Aleph, the one, the whole verse says, do unto others as you want done unto you. For this is what? The law and the prophets. If you don't know what the prophets did, and if you don't know the law, you can't do unto others based off of the standard that the prophets and the law says you should. Yahushua came to reestablish covenant through law, but also through law he would liberate. This is why they say at the end of the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 7, at the end, they say straight up, they say that the people were astonished when they heard him give this word. Why? Because they said he spoke as one having authority. In other words, they heard a lot of people preach. They heard a lot of people give this law. They heard a lot of people from a lot of different stances come in and talk about this stuff, but they had never heard anybody come and actually give the law, and the law itself gave liberty. That's why he said, I came to set the captives free. I came to give liberty. You said legality is not necessarily the road to morality. Sure, depending on whose legality. But what are you being judged by? Matter of fact, if there is no legality, then there is no sacrifice. Because Yahushua had to make sure that he endured, not getting away from legality. And even Matthew chapter 5, verse 48, the same Sermon on the Mount says what? It says, be ye perfect as your Father in heaven also is perfect. That means that there's possibilities that I can be perfect. Even if not 100% of the time, I should at least strive for perfection. Perfection means completion. There's certain things that if I do them, I will be perfect. Why? Because his law is perfect. That's according to Paul, by the way, in Romans chapter 7, that the law is holy. The law is perfect. The commandments are holy. Paul says if I didn't know if I didn't have a commandment that said thou shalt not covet, how would I know not to lust? You said just because something is legal doesn't make it right. So that's why I said, according to whose legality? Is it according to yours? Or is it according to the one who wrote the law? This is why Paul says you got to have a circumcised heart that the spirit might be able to penetrate, not have a law of the flesh, or an uncircumcised heart where the flesh doesn't allow the spirit to penetrate, that the law might be able to be left perfect. So if we put our flesh on it, then the law is no longer perfect. That's why Paul talks about two laws in Romans chapter 7, the law of the spirit and the law of the flesh. The law of the spirit for the circumcised heart means that the spirit penetrates the heart, and the law will always be perfect. When all of a sudden there's your flesh surrounding it and you have to decipher everything, the tree of knowledge of good and evil versus the tree of life, you need to decipher everything for yourself and not just be obedient through the spirit, then guess what happens? Then the law gets tainted. And therefore the things that Paul wants to do become hard for him to do. The things that he doesn't want to do become easy for him to do because he's dealing with his flesh. When his flesh is not surrounding his heart, the law is perfect. Exactly. Well, that's what we're saying. We're not going by the law of this government. There's even in the Constitution, you have a right to be able to say, I want to be private, and my religion gets to go above whatever your law decrees. You just don't know how to say that and how to make sure you write it out. But your religion gets to go over a whole bunch of stuff. Because the law of your religion is the law of Elohim. That's like if you try to patent something that the Most High created, right? If you try to patent some greens out there and say, I'm going to call these Wukong Prime greens, They would say, you can't. You say, well, why can't I? I found them. Nobody even knows they exist. Well, they were created by the Most High. You can't patent it. However, if you modify it, if you change it, if you make it about what you want, then you can patent it all day. This is why even when it comes to a sacrifice, when somebody would have had made an offering, you would have had an altar. The altar was always supposed to be unaltered. If you carved anything into the stone, if you chiseled anything into the rock, if you carved anything into the wood, then it was not worthy of being used as an altar. Why? Because whatever you alter is no longer his altar. It must remain unaltered to go back to the origin. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. That's origins. The problem that we have is we try to get away from the original. Then people get powers, and then confusion, darkness comes, and then you have wickedness in high places. But if we would go back to the origin, you can't mess with the origin. Isn't it interesting that everybody's talking about all this health stuff, and everybody now just wants to go back to the origin? How did we used to eat? I didn't say you were against me, right? You're making some valid points. I apologize if it comes off that way. If it does, I'm sorry, right? But if that's where you're taking it, I can see how you can take that, but that's not my focus, right? I apologize for that, but if you're going to make some of those points, you're going to talk about legalese and all these things for sure. You have every right, even if you were coming against me, you have every right to question it. So, okay, you're not offended. I'm sorry. I don't know if there's anything that I can say that's going to be able to do anything to rectify it, but hopefully you'll be able to stay in. And if we're not in a disagreement, I don't know what we're disagreeing about, but thank you. I apologize for whatever part I played. That being said, right? So we have this thing where you got to realize that people are coming with beastly assassination. Okay, you got it, right? So we're dealing with beastly assassination. That's what we're dealing with, right? And when you do things and you stand on the word and you stand on solid things, right? And that's why he's telling you, right? And the people said, wow, we never heard somebody speak with such authority. Now let's go back, right, to where we were in scripture in John chapter 12, verse 9. So it says, much people, remember, people means nation here, right? So much people or much nation of Yehovah, much of the nation of the Jews, much of the nation, when they found out about what happened with Lazarus, and they knew that he was there. They knew that Yehoshua, who raised Lazarus, and they knew that Lazarus had shown up to where they were. It said they came not for Yehoshua's sake only, right? They didn't come just because the word was being done, or just because of the Messiah, or just because of this. They didn't come just because of that only. It said, but that they might see Lazarus also, that they might see something is resurrected, right? This isn't a normal place now that we're at. We're seeing something move. We're seeing something grow. This isn't we just showing up to church to clock in, clock out. Something happened where something that should not have life has been given life. Okay? This is a different place. Something that should not have been given life has been given life. Something that we were told would never be able to happen has happened. Something that the religious leaders at the time would have said is wrong or that couldn't happen has happened. Something is different today than it's been before in times past. How you doing, Man Bear? How you doing, Etherin? Right? Something different has come across. Something authorized. Something big has happened. And they began, now watch this, whom he had raised from the dead, verse 10. But the chief priests consulted, the people who were the chief, the people who were the highest up, the people who were given power by the colonizer. Right? Let's just keep it a buck, right? The people who live in the colonization, the people who have now, the colonizers who try to identify as the colonized. That's what's going on here. We don't want to have that part of the discussion, but that's what's going on. How you doing, David the Giant Slayer? Right? That's not what's going. The people who are pretending to be about the laws of Yah, but really get paid by being about the laws that actually make the people of Yah feel decrepit and have made their houses or their families feel dilapidated. Dilapidated. I've been messing that word up, right? But they have made them, right? These people, they find out about this, and it says the chief priests consulted that they might put Lazarus also to death. So they already had the scheme. We're going to put Yehoshua to death. Because he's anti-beast. Remember, you're either anti-beast or you're anti-Christ. I'm sorry, and he will certify. Hello, how are you doing? I guess it was, and he will certify the names of his father and him hold fast What you have until he comes. Okay, amen. How you doing, Poetic Melody? Thanks for being part of the community. So yeah, so you're either antichrist or you're anti-beast. And as we said earlier, people who you're trying to stand in between the Axis powers and the Allied powers, and people start shooting. If you're in between, you're gonna get shot. War is here, right? Right. Whether you want to try and say you're friendly to both sides, well, you get friendly fire. Be careful, right? Okay, amen. Thank you for that. Right. So, and also, what our focus is for today is what we're talking about: this beastly assassination, right? And the chief priests consulted because they already wanted to put Christ to death. That was already mandatory. Why? But now they need to put Lazarus to death. Now here's the reason. Before I tell you why, before somebody says you just making up stuff, thanks for being part of Community Critical Thinker. Before you guys say this, we're talking about this is revolutionary, right? People are being free, liberty, right? Watch this, verse 11. Why is it that they want to take the life not only of the Messiah, Mashiach, the Anointed One, Christ, Christos, Yeshua, Yahushua, Yahushua. I'm not going to argue dialect today, right? Or language even outside of Jesus, because Jesus means half man, half Zeus, right? But why is it that they're coming for him? It says in verse 11, because that by reason of him, by reason of who? By reason of Yahushua, and by reason of now Lazarus. Because Lazarus represents something that should not have life, but has life again. They're trying to get rid of the evidence, right? The evidence, the proof is this thing should not live and somehow has life. Ezekiel 37 says that what? After we go Ezekiel 34, and it talks about the fact that, the leaders, the shepherds need to get themselves together in Israel. Ezekiel 35, we got to speak against the Esau spirit. Ezekiel 36, we start restoring some things, and some things will manifest back for our community. And Ezekiel 37 now says that now that the community environment's together, Ezekiel 37 says that Israel shall live again. Dry bones shall live, right? Okay. Lazarus should not live. He's been gone from this earth realm, right? At least so people think. Well, he has been gone from this earth realm, and according to their culture, he's been gone 4 days. They even believe, some of them believe, that he could be resurrected, but only within 3 days. But Yahushua says, I don't even have to say within 3 days. He says, I can resurrect Lazarus even after he's been gone for more than 3 days. A lot of people don't know this, right? Don't know that part of it is that they had a belief system back then. The Pharisees did, right? Who didn't believe in the afterlife. But the Pharisees had a belief system that said, hey, okay, you can be resurrected, but it's got to be within 3 days. If it goes past 3 days, you can't be resurrected, because they believe the spirit hovered over the body for 3 days. They said after that, no more spirit, right? That's what they believe, right? But Yahushua waited 2 extra days before he left on a 2-day journey. He found out about Lazarus. He knew that Lazarus was going to die in 2 days. He could have rushed to get there and been there to just heal him. Instead, he told his disciples when they showed up, he said, this has been done to show glory, and that you will see something that you've never seen before. Then stays where he is for 2 days, and then leaves on 2 days journey, guaranteeing that not only is Lazarus gone by the time he gets there, but he's been gone 4 days. So Lazarus is not even supposed to be there, not just according to just the fact that his heart stopped, or because they buried him, or because they might have even pulled organs out at this point or whatever. That's not even what they're talking about. Lazarus has been gone. He's been dead. He's been gone for over what they believe should happen. And how you doing, how you doing, Butch? How you doing, Miss Q? How you doing, Carrie? Lazarus has been gone past what they believe. And thanks for being part of the community, Butch. Forgive me. Right? That's and so he shows up on the 4th day, not the 3rd, but the 4th day, meaning he shouldn't be able to come back to life. This is why he has to remind the sisters, I am the resurrection. Don't get on, can he be resurrected? If the resurrection shows up, everything is resurrected. Oh, somebody missed that. You should give him praise right there. If the resurrection shows up, wherever the resurrection steps, that means it's resurrected. What are we talking about here? Wherever I show up, if I show up in Israel, Israel is resurrected. If I show up in Galilee, Galilee is resurrected. If I show up in your finances are resurrected. Uh-oh. If I show up in your mind is resurrected. If I show up in your body, then you right. If I show up in your life, you must be born again because you got to be resurrected. You got to go through a gestational period again. You can't be the same. If I showed up, you got to go back to square one. You must be resurrected. If I resurrect you, that means that when you come out, you're healthy. You know, if you're resurrected, if your Hashpah touches you, this is something. Let me just help you out with something. If you've never seen this before in Scripture, have your way, Holy Spirit. Look. Every person that's been resurrected in the Scripture, every single one of them came back 100% healthy. You never even thought about that before, have you? I don't really be thinking about it, to be honest with you. This is Holy Spirit led. Look. Every person that was ever resurrected came back 100% healthy. Because how are you going to be touched by your house fire? How are you going to be touched by perfection? How are you going to be touched by the hand of the Most High? How are you going to be touched by the Spirit of Yah and you coming out still broken? If he touches it, if he resurrects it, it's got to come back out healthy. It's got to come out whole. That's the way it works. Right? There's liberty in the touch of Yahshua. That's why people risk their life. That's why a woman with the issue of blood who was probably bowled over because she can't stop bleeding, very weak and everything, finds whatever last bit of strength she has. He says, even if I'm going to go out pushing people out the side, stumbling, doing whatever I got to, but if I can just make it to touch the hem. If I can just touch the hem. All right? If I can just get to him. Come on, somebody. If I can just get to him. If I can just get to him, come on, the man in the pool called beautiful too. Come on, sis. If I can just get to him, I'm just trying to get to the him. If I can get to him, if I can just touch what's attached to him. Right? Because if not, I'm risking everything. If somebody finds out I touched him and I was unclean, they could take my life right there. I'm supposed to scream unclean, and if people don't move out my way, I'm not supposed to try and go through. But whatever it takes, if I can just get to him. Right? Oh, my greatness. Okay, let's get back to script. Praise y'all. That was for somebody right there. Look, so Luke chapter 12, verse 11, because that by reason of him, many of the Jews went away and believed on Yehoshua. Wait a minute. So the people of Yehoshua, or the people of Yah, finally recognized through Lazarus being resurrected, them realizing that somebody could in fact go past what they thought resurrection was, realizing that somebody could go past what they thought, what their insecurities was, what their idiosyncrasies had been set to be by somebody else who acknowledged that they were living in heaven on earth and wanted them to live on hell on earth. Who would preach a word and start off at the Sermon on the Mount by saying, blessed are those who are poor in spirit. You don't even know that much about the spiritual plane. But those who are poor in spirit, the kingdom of heaven can belong to you as well. He preached liberty. He preached revolution. See, beastly assassination comes against us when we begin to say it is possible that we can be resurrected. Right? Give me the him. The him is better than sitting up here walking, right? I'd rather touch the him and be whole than sit around a bunch of people that want me to be bent over. Think about that. You got an issue. The issue of blood. The issue of who are you in your DNA and your covenant. And here it is that you bent over, and you're supposed to be bent over, and that makes you pious. You're supposed to be broke. You're supposed to be destitute. You're not supposed to take care of each other's business. You're supposed to keep on praising. Well, praise get down low and get down low and get down low and get lower and lower and lower. And the lower you get, and just stay down there and be under my feet. And matter of fact, kiss my feet, kiss my ring, do this, do that, or whatever, right? You're supposed to come to the pulpit and make sure that you bow down to man over and over and over again. I'm not talking about sitting at somebody's feet. I'm talking about you're supposed to be a servant to them and not even serve the Most High, not even serve your own needs, which the Most High says that his servants should be taught to make sure that they themselves can take their talent and double it up so that he might give them not only the talent he gave them, but the talent that they were able to get using his ways. And many people have been taught, be like the woman, bow down. Be subservient. Don't press through. Even if your healing's right here, don't press through. Don't touch me, even if you got to touch me to get past your healing or get to your healing. Don't touch me. I'm the man of Yah. I'm the woman of God. I'm the man of God. Don't touch me on your way. You're right, but they're gonna have to touch you, and you might have to get moved out the way because you're not the end all be all of anything. Right? You might even be in the way. Somebody might have to see you and you preach, and they say, oh, you're preaching about the one that's behind you. You're preaching about the one that I need to get to past you. Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate your preaching. Now let me move you out the way real quick. Right? Because now that you showed me that I need to get to him, right? Well then, excuse me. Thank you so much. Excuse me, you've done your part. If I'm told to come back to you, cool. But let me get to him first. Because he's the door, not you. He's the bread, not you. And we oftentimes, we play defense. You know, we the offensive linemen. Yo, hold on. Oh, wait, what you doing? What you doing? Don't get in. Right? Like the disciples. Hey, there's a little child. You know, these children trying to get to you. Your husband's like, why would you not let the children come? Your husband, you're talking to this woman at the well. I'm shocked you would talk to a Samaritan woman. Why would I not? Send these people away. Your husband, they just bothering you or whatever. Do you not see that they're hungry? Tell them to bring me whatever they have. Let's make sure everybody eats. Come on, somebody. Come on, somebody. I'm just trying to help you. Praise God. I'm just trying to help you. We are so great at defending people at defending Yehoshua. If we're not careful, we're not great at letting people get past. He's come to give liberty. This is revolution. I know people don't like it when you preach revolutionary because Christ pro-revolutionary. To be pro-Christ is to be anti-beast. That means the government that you're under falls into pieces. This is why by law, if you read legal definitions of what the word human means, this is why by law, human means monster. Why? Because if you are a human being, a natural person, by law, you are a monster to the system. You are monstrous. You break the system down. This is better than what I can make up. And people will then say this is conspiracy theory, this is conjecture. No, this is reality. Like, why would they even put in law if somebody wants to be a human being, a natural person, you have to be a monster? Why would they write that down? Right? Because they recognize who you are, the truth in who you are. Right? The truth in who you are. They recognize who you are, what you become, what you could become. If you ever became who you're called to be, system has to go away, or at least it can't affect you. Okay, Phil, thank you for letting me know that the channel's blurry. Can you hear it? Because it's more important that you hear it than see me anyways, right? Appreciate you. If that's your way of saying hello, how you doing? Right? So you have to recognize how you doing, Anastasia. You have to recognize and realize that the beastly assassinations, this is why they come. Right? Because if you ever recognize that if people ever saw that what you do resurrects, if people ever saw that what you do causes communities to grow, if people ever saw that what you do causes life to enter, it's over. Right? After they came to look at him, verse 12. After they came to see Lazarus, this is what happens, verse 12. On the next day. So people are already following him. They've been listening to him give the word. They've been listening to his sermons. They've seen him heal. Some people have been there when he was baptized and saw the Father, Son, Holy Spirit show up. Hey, how you doing, Sister Karen? How you doing, Chosen? Right? They've seen all these things. People are following him now. The crumb de la crumb, right? The coup d'etat. Well, I don't know if that's the one we want to use, but crumb de la crumb, right? Has happened. And now they've seen he resurrecting people out the grave, straight up. On the next day, much people that were come to the feast, when they heard that Yehoshua was coming to Yehoshua. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you guys hear or see me? Apparently, this is a problem for more than just a couple people. How you doing, Fatal Pros? Can you guys hear or see me? How you doing, Prince? Okay, cool. Can you guys see me on YouTube? Can you guys see me on Facebook? Hopefully you can. I don't really have many options on Signal today. So thank you, Cole. Thank you, everybody, for letting me know. Appreciate it. So thank you, Carla. Thank you, everybody. So the next day, this is revolution. The next day, you see there's power being gained. There's people that are leaving the establishment. Even people that say this is what the establishment stands for, they realizing you don't really stand for what you say, do you? How you doing, Darius? Right? The people are leaving. This is revolution now. People don't want to talk about this. This is nation building. This is nation building, right? This is revolutionary. Hear me. People are leaving what they thought Israel was supposed to be under colonized rule, and they're coming back to what it's supposed to be because the king has showed up. And like we said earlier, if you already have an emperor, if you already have a king, if you already have a false king, Herod or his sons or whoever it is, right? If you have now a governor, Pontius Pilate, whoever it is, this person who's been saying that they are your ruler and they will be the reason why you get delivered to whatever, they're gonna, if your king shows up, that means you got to be liberated before he can be your king. Is that your way of saying hello, Joseph? Hello to you. I hope that you're having a great day. Where I've been is Revelation chapter 12. And if you'd like to go there, I'm sorry, not Revelation, excuse me, John chapter 12. If you'd like to go there, you're more than welcome to. Or if you'd like, you can go ahead and find another so-called lecture that you would appreciate enough, or just find somebody you can say hello to. But welcome. I'll go ahead and say welcome to you and leave it at that. And thank you for the love. And how you doing, Blue? Is it Blue? I don't know if it's Blue Shish. Please forgive me. Blue Shish. I don't know if that's it or not. But thanks for being on. How you doing, Tony? And everybody coming on. So you have to recognize, thank you everybody who's on, by the way, on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. We appreciate your presence very much. Right? And how you doing, Just Banks? So in all the stuff that we're doing, right? And we're talking about revolution. Why does nobody want to talk about the nation building? Because you're not taught that you're supposed to be a nation. You're just taught, okay, he's a nice person. I like some ideology. I'll go ahead and make up some idiosyncrasies that fit my ideals, and I'll therefore build a narrative that supports my way of thinking things, and I will colonize it, or we just call it, make it appropriate. We'll appropriate it. We'll take it outside of the culture that its origin is in, and we'll try to make it something that had nothing to do with the culture. And then we'll tell you guys all the stuff that makes you guys start saying, oh, well, they had to be copying off of this and blah, blah. No, you're talking about what Roman Catholics do. You're talking about what Christians do. The Bible is not written for Christians. Because before there was such thing as a Christian, the Bible existed. I'm going to say it again. This is one of the things that messes with people until they get it. You're so busy being anti-Christian and talking about how the Christianity is automatically going to take over black folk and blah, blah, and they change everything by becoming Christian. Do you not realize that a lot of these people that are mentioned in here are African? The person who's compelled to carry the tithe, or what you call the cross, look at what country he comes from. Look at what color he would have been. Look at what color Christ would have been and why he would have been hidden in Kemet. Look at Joseph and how Joseph, or Yesai, I'm talking about out of the 12 original branches, the 11th son of Yehoshua, who you call Israel. Look at the fact that he was in Kemet. His brothers, who were his blood brothers, come and they see him when he's second in command of all of Kemet and don't recognize him, not simply just because he's in a higher position than he would have been, and that maybe they even thought like he had passed away because they sold him slavery. But look at what actually happens. They say they look at him in his face. They have a conversation and don't recognize the difference between them and the people of Kemet, because they're the same people. And then they're married into each other for hundreds of years. And then a whole bunch of Kemetic people leave out of Israel with there. And even your Bible says, therefore, you can't just go off on Kemet only just as far as race, because the people of Kemet came out. Therefore, they themselves, many of them have become the children of Israel. We just in our culture don't make a distinction. We don't know nothing about no stepfather or stepmother. If that's your father, then that's your father. If that's your mother, then that's your mother. We don't know nothing about this whole, we're going to try and make sure, if you married in, if you graft in, if you follow the commandments, if you follow the ways, then you become grafted into what? The tree. If the tree of Israel is Israel and you get grafted into the tree of Israel, it takes you a while, but once you get the culture down and you start providing fruit the way that we do, then guess what? You are still part of the same tree. This whole thing of colorism and Christianity and Christian nationalism and stuff like that, that's new. It's news to us that are in the kingdom, because that's new. That's something that y'all still holding on to and are fighting over and are talking about in your camps and your Christian sects and your Muslim sects and your Afrocentric sects and your all the different schisms that you want to create and still be like the oppressor who put this stuff in place that can keep you oppressed. Even Willie Lynch told you that December 25th, 1712, on Christmas Day when he preached the sermon. He told you we studied them, and that's what they do. We studied them. When we take the kingdom away from them, when we take a kingdom mind away from them, right? I'm not even talking about just kingdom, heaven, Bible. I'm talking about kingdom. You came from kingdoms. You didn't come from democracy. Democracy is not even, by the way, in your constitution. But you didn't come from democracy. You came from kingdom. And kingdoms is when you were at your highest point. And when you were segregated, even under democracy, when you were separate, you still acted more like kings and had your own businesses and things. When you integrated, now you're sitting up there begging your own people to come back to you because your people think that their ice is colder than yours. Come on, Holy Spirit. How you doing, Audrey? We don't want to have no real conversations about this. And people are going to go to church today and get preached. They're going to say, till heaven come down, and they're going to go right back into a place of believing that a colonized mind. I'm not just talking about black, white. I'm talking about even spiritually. A colonized mind, a demonic mind is something that we should look up to. Yeah, we came from kingdom. Kingdom is in your DNA. You said TikTok blocked you. Okay, I have to see that. I don't know. I'll have to see. All right. So we are in, once again, John chapter 12. We started at verse 9. And verse 11 told us why they needed to try and take the lives of not only Hushai, but they also wanted to take Lazarus' life. And how you doing, Kevlar? I hope I'm saying that correctly. Right. But that's where we were. That's what was going on. Right? That's what was happening. How you doing, Just Miracles? Right? Is that somebody showed that we could be resurrected, life could be brought back. And here it is now, John chapter 12, verse 12. The very next day. On the next day. So everybody came to see what's going on. Who is this person that's actually been teaching, preaching, we've been hearing about, he's been living by the law, all this stuff has been changing. People are saying that he's changing the way that they think. Like all these officials, government officials seem to have a problem with him. They tried to take his life before, he had to go through the crowd, all this stuff. And now on the next day, after Lazarus has been brought back from the dead, because remember, also too, there's a belief system that's held by our people in which if you get resurrected, then we got to see you eat again. Right? If you're not eating food, then you're not really alive. Until you can eat food, digestive system is part of your system, right? They give you all these 13 systems: endocrine system, skeletal system, muscular system, central nervous system, et cetera, right? Or your digestive system, one of them. If you can't digest anything, then we got a problem. You ain't really here, right? How you doing, Kenta? So we doing revolution. They say, look, revolution, if this is real, we want to see it. All these people showed up. So after they saw this happen, it says the next day. We don't even put these two together. Lazarus raised from the dead. People come to see about him. People see that he's alive. People are like, yo, something really happening. He must be the Messiah. If he's the king, Messiah, he's our king. If he's the king, then he's coming to make sure that he's taking us to be what? Liberated. All right. Don't miss this now. What are we talking about today? Beastly assassination. Beastly assassination. Now he is an enemy of not only the people who are supposed to be your figureheads. I'm sorry, not only are the people who are supposed to be your heads, Caesar and them, but he's also now one who's an enemy of your figureheads. These so-called religious leaders, right, who are supposed to be helping you, but really they feast off of you. Ezekiel chapter 34. For you can have the resurrection. Ezekiel 37, you got to deal with the preachers. Ezekiel 34, you got to deal with the so-called leaders. Ezekiel 34. And in our system, in our government, a lot of times we are the only people where we keep allowing people to be voted in or put over us who don't have our best interest at heart. How you doing, Black Steel? Right? Because we don't care about looking. We just go, oh, look at them, they black. But not all skin folk is kinfolk. Just like Romans chapter 9, verse 6 says that not all Israel is Israel. Be careful. Just because they look like you doesn't mean they think like you. Just because they look like you doesn't mean they want you to do well. Just because they look like you doesn't mean that you should listen to them. Just because they look like you doesn't mean you should give up the kingdom and start voting. Because voting is not even kingdom. Alrighty. So John chapter 12, on the very next day, after all this has happened, this is what happens. On the next day, much people, much of the nation we had just heard, they left the fallacy, they left the religious leaders, they left the fake government, they left the corporation alone, and they said, we're going to follow this real thing, and we must follow the king of our nation. Okay? So it says what? It says the next day, they would come to the feast when they heard that Yehoshua was coming to Jerusalem. So now they know that he raises from the dead. They've seen somebody be raised from the dead. They know resurrection is possible. They hear all the stuff he's been saying. They see the manifestation. They know all these things are going on. They say, okay, here's the next move for us. You ready? They said, now we are going to what? We are about to go to Yehoshua or see about this Yehoshua, this person, this king, this Messiah. If he's the king over these other kings, if he's the one that's going to reestablish covenant, if he's the one that's going to show us how the law actually works, then we better find out who he is, and we better be ready to bow down and worship, to give glory to this king, right? Because he's not a regular person if he's doing the things he's doing. Okay, John 12:13, took branches of palm trees. Now they take the palms, right? They take the branches of these palm trees and went forth to meet him and cried, what? Hosanna. Hosanna. Right? Hosanna is one of the greatest cries you can. Basically crying out, our king. Our king. This was not just a random thing. Don't let these people fool you. This was a king. If this person is king, if this person is truly who they are as king, that means that therefore there's revolution. Because if somebody else is over you, and you say, now here comes the real king that is over everybody else, that's revolution, is it not? I'm just trying to make sure we're on the same page here, right? Is it not revolution? If we believe that this king can come into place, right? If we believe that we're under some other government and we say, no, you're not my king, you're not my president, you're not my ruler, I have a king that's greater than you, then it means that we must have some kind of revolution. I know you don't want to hear that. I know it sounds wild. I'm not sitting up here. Once again, this is not a call to arms. It can't even be close because we're not ready for it, at least not yet. And I'm not even in a belief system where we got to be worried about going to war and all this stuff. Some of y'all there. I'm telling you straight up, this is not a call to arms because I know people ain't, some of y'all want to have a call to arms. You're not even prepared to make sure that you hit a bullseye or the target yet, or make sure you don't get a Beretta bite yet. So this is not a call to arms. This is educational purposes only. But I need you to comprehend in this time, this is what's going on. When they're laying down the palm and saying Hosanna, this is what they say next. Barak, right? Barak, bless the king of Israel. If you're saying Israel has a king, you're saying that nobody else has authority outside of that king, or whoever's over that king. And whoever's over that king is not whoever's over the emperor of Rome. This is revolution. This is revolutionary. This is one of the reasons why it's hard for people to follow you. Why did Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. get a lot more followers than we get nowadays? Because he was revolutionary. Why did Minister Malcolm Shabazz, these are religious folk. Why did Minister Malcolm Shabazz get a lot of people to follow him? Right? Because it was revolution. How do you get a bunch of people to follow a prophet? At least in Jamaican circles and a lot of circles too, but Jamaican circles and certain Afrocentric circles, a prophet, or at least a man who's considered to be a king, who was a king. Some people considered him to be the king of Africa, not just Africa the continent, but Africa the diasporas. And Marcus Garvey, who, as much as you don't think there was any religion, listen to what he talks about and how he talks about we have to get back to our prism and what our religiosity is, and look at what he wrote, which now has become the Ethiopian, they've changed the words now a little bit and stuff, but go back to the actual Black national anthem, not out of your hymnal, which is, it's a nice song, lift every voice and sing, but that's not the Black national anthem. Go back to that national Black national anthem that says that we have to go back to Israel and Jerusalem and our weary days and going back to what our Lord wants us to do. This is how you got, when you talk about your relevance, it's interesting. See, other people who want you to go ahead and hate yourselves and despise your freedom keep telling you, oh yeah, man, this whole religious thing and blah, blah. But when you look at all these people that actually captivated us and have us, even if you're somebody that's into Farrakhan, I don't agree with everything Farrakhan says. I'm not going to act like I disagree with everything either, but I don't agree, obviously, with everything Farrakhan says. That being said, though, even when you go to Farrakhan, you're dealing with somebody's religion. They keep telling you about this religiosity. Now, you don't want to look at the fact that even George Washington, Washington, D.C., Washington, Obelisk, Osiris, D.C., District of Columbia, Columbia on top of the Congress building, supposed to be the ISIS. Out of ISIS comes Heru or Horus, right? So the Eye of Horus, they're trying to tell you now is coming out. They try to shift power and stuff, and that's why some of you are even starting to preach that Israel and Egypt were actually in North America and not in Africa, because you don't even recognize it's coming from somebody else's rhetoric and somebody else's mind. But see, in our culture, we're looking for a king because whoever is our king is who has power. And if we want to have power established outside of this system, you don't go into the system talking about, I want to keep voting. Because the people that are voting are not under the same king and under the same system. So if you want to go to the oppressive system, asking for the oppressor to stop oppressing you, that's not how it works. You only stop being oppressed when you step outside of their system. This is why private sovereignty is different than public citizenship. Yeah, we could even look at Matthew chapter 21, verse 9. Thank you, Minister Samantha Lorraine. Hosanna to the Son of David. That means he comes out the right family, the Ba'it. Hosanna to the Son of David, the one who comes out the correct family, who comes in the name of the Lord. So Yehoshua is the one who is the son of David, who comes in the authority, the name of Yahweh. It has to all line up. There's a kingdom being established. There's a revolution. But as Malcolm said, as we were talking about yesterday, whenever somebody else told you to bleed, you won't bleed. But when it comes to the people of your people, when it comes to the revolution, you ain't got no blood. It's interesting you talk about the blood of Christ, but the blood of Christ was shed. It's not a call to arms. Once again, this is for educational purposes only. Let's keep it above. The blood of Christ was shed. When they told you to go to Korea, your blood was shed. When they said fight, even though they didn't consider you to be a person, but they said fight as a slave in the Revolutionary War, your blood was shed. When they said in the Civil War, you could fight even as a Union or even as the people who were fighting to keep you as slaves in the Confederacy, your blood was shed. When they said go to the fight against the Viet Cong, who never called you the N-word, your blood was shed. When they said go ahead and go, look, I was over there. They said go to Iraq and fight our brothers and sisters. They said go to Afghanistan and fight our brothers and sisters. Blood was shed. But now when it comes to this or whatever, we're afraid, forget blood to be shed. We're afraid that somebody might say something that makes you feel uncomfortable. When it comes to our people, we ain't got no blood. And we'll talk bad about the people that shed blood. MLK sheds blood. And here you are sitting up here talking about, oh, MLK, he wasn't like Malcolm X enough for me. And he was black. You ain't got no blood in the game anyways. You don't help nobody in your community. When's the last time you made sure people got fed? When's the last time you made sure the people in your community, you were supporting them? We say all the time, hashtag SOC, sister so-and-so's got this, brother so-and-so's got this, call each other, deal with this, make sure that you supporting somebody's this and that or whatever. We can't even shed dollars, but you want to talk bad about somebody who shed blood. And was still fighting to live after that. It was only because they smothered him so that he couldn't go ahead and keep breathing and possibly come back and continue to love on you. You've learned to assassinate their character. We're talking about what today? Beastly assassination. Beastly assassination. No. Yeah, all persons can become part of the people of Israel, for sure. But not all persons are automatically in, because there's the children of Israel, or there's the children of the woman, right? And there's the children of the devil. They're at enmity with each other. And those that are in enmity with the devil, they are on the hit list, especially you get to a certain place. You said spread the news of Yeshua. We must destroy the reverence of the image of white Jesus, the Messiah is Yeshua. Sure, yes. Also, too, once you shed the image of the white Jesus, make sure that you shed the image of we're not supposed to be under the law. Once you shed the image of that, make sure you shed the image of if people who are white, the Bible says that as long as they make sure they come in their graft, and they still can be considered. By the way, shed the image of white because the color white doesn't exist. White is not a color. White is the opposite of color. It is clear. It is see-through. It is translucent. If you see a white blood cell, look at a white blood cell under a microscope. It's clear. If you see a white snowflake, look at a white snowflake under a microscope. It's clear. If you see white polar bear fur, look at white polar bear fur under a microscope. It is clear. You see what I'm saying? Even when you see white in your Bible, it's either talking about bright or it's talking about clear. You can have a bright blue. You can have a white blue. But somebody changed this so much to keep us in what? In confusion. You see what I'm saying? This is not something that you used to walk around and be like, oh, there's white people didn't know there was a such thing as white people. They had to be mistaught just like you had to be mistaught. And poor white people had to be taught that they were better than you because of the color of their skin. So you could be a rich black person that still is bad, or a rich black person that's really pious, and the bad white person could say they're still better than you because of the color of skin. This is where you get these terms like beat somebody to the white meat shows. That was of a mindset that said that if somebody was whipping you and they saw white skin, instead of feeling bad for you, they should actually feel great that that's doing that to you because this supposed white color matters when that's not even white, it's showing. Because if it's showing, then it's technically not a color. The whiter or lighter something gets, it actually means the further away from color it gets. But that just means that it's more translucent or whatever. Right? We have this weird concept of this. Matter of fact, if you want to go into scripture, you're really not going like this. If you want to go into scripture, then you can't talk about the fact that of Shem and being Shemitic and being Avda means anything unless you have to deal with the fact that you think that white is a color thing or whatever. We don't know how much so, but we know that Noah was albino. Right? So if he's albino, now, but albino doesn't mean he's not somebody of people who have color. But for whatever reason, in his lineage, when it got to him, especially when you start dealing with us getting away from perfection, there's some kind of something that happens that causes him to lose color. Doesn't mean that Shem is no longer somebody we should look at, that Ham can no longer be African because they were darker than their father. Of course not. I mean, we can go through all types of things, but we've been taught. See, we're dealing with eugenics now, not necessarily with creation. See, that's eugenics talk, and we're going to try to preach eugenics if we're not careful. So yeah, preach the whole. Right? Preach the whole thing. Wholly, be holistic in it. But let's not just get a little piece of it. If we're going to talk about it, yeah, make sure it matches everything that Yah has said. But once again, difference. Just because Yahashua shed his blood, but we're not willing to shed anything. We're not even willing to shed the things that we've done that are anti-law. We're not willing to shed bad friends. We're not willing to shed, heck, we're not even willing to allow people to shed off the things. Look, oh, well, I went to school. I've got this many degrees and this and that, and everybody knows my name. What if Yah says change your name? What if he says this is no longer who you are? What if he says I'm going to put you in a situation where nobody cares about your degrees? You're going to keep bringing them up? I mean, I can talk about different degrees. I can talk about people I've taught. I can talk about things in politics that I've helped put in place. I can talk about, whatever. We can go down whatever road. You can go down stuff with the military, all this stuff. At the end of the day, right now, how much does it matter? It matters if I can talk to you about something for sure. But then ultimately, where he has me going, does it really matter? No. I'm willing to shed that. At one point, I would have said, even though I didn't even like it all, but at one point I would have said, okay, you got to know this stuff about me, and that makes me this. And when I was even going to certain churches and stuff, they like that and blah, blah. Who cares? Use what Yah wants you to get out of it. Other than that, who cares? Right. Even if you're talking about bloodline is talking about your lineage. My son is not my son because he's darker or lighter than me, or he's the same color. He's my son because he comes from me. My wife is one with me, not because of whatever. Now, do I say we should ignore color altogether? No. Don't be colorblind, because then that's also lying. Right? But we're talking about assassination, right? We're talking about, what is it? Beastly assassination. They've assassinated the point of you even being able to get to a place where we think clearly. So anyways, back to John 12:13. They took branches of palm trees and went forth to meet him and cried, Hosanna, blessed is the King of Yahashua that cometh in the name of Yahweh, in the name of Adon. At Yahashua, this is verse 14. When he had found a young ass, right? When he had found this young donkey, right? Sat thereon as it is written. What did he do? He followed law as it is written. He did what? He came prophetically. There was law. Now, once again, people don't want to hear this. People go, oh, law. You're talking about Mosaic law. Anything a king says is law. Any royalty that speaks something, it is law. As soon as it comes out their mouth, They are governed by it. Everybody else is governed by it. Somebody must write it down real quick. We must make sure that we hold them accountable to what they said, right? The Ten Commandments, they are law. If you believe you shouldn't murder somebody, it's because Yahweh came down by his hand, right? I believe it's commandment number 6, right? And came down and wrote with his own hand, thou shalt not murder. Right? If you believe you shouldn't lie, it's because you believe that Yahweh came to Moses, right, on the mount and made sure that he wrote with his own hand, not once, but twice. Just in case you didn't believe he wrote it once, he wrote the same thing again, second time, and wrote down specifically, Exodus chapter 20, right? Ninth commandment, thou shalt not lie. If you believe that you should honor your parents, you believe you're supposed to honor your parents because it's law, right? The 5th commandment, thou shalt honor thy mother and father. The first command with a promise. It's even looked at again by in Ephesians chapter 6 by Paul, right? Before he says put on the full armor. Before you put on the full armor, you got to follow the law. Nobody want to go there, right? But that's Mosaic law. But then anything a king decrees is still law. So when there's a prophetic word, guess what that is? If the king said it through a vessel and the vessel prophesied on behalf of the king, but the king is the one who said it, then it's a law. No, there's no such, watch this. There's no such thing as Old and New Testament. Somebody just in the last few hundred years started writing in the Bible, New Testament. There was no such thing as New Testament. You know why? Because there's no such thing as an Old and New Testament. Somebody wrote an Old and New Testament. Especially if you start getting into Alexandrian doctrine, right? No such thing as a separation. No such thing as, okay, once you get to Malachi, there won't be any, after Malachi, everything is brand new. Matter of fact, Yehoshua quotes Old Testament, supposed Old Testament, quite a bit, and Apocrypha, quite a bit. You know? Right? So I'm with you on that. Most definitely. And Yehoshua, right? But he did something that was law. It was prophesied. The king said that if my son shows up, the king said if I show up in flesh, the king said if the Messiah shows up, the anointed one shows up, the one who is the king over these other governments, he said when I show up, this is what's going to happen. It says in John 12:15, fear not, daughter of Zion, thy king cometh, sitting on an ass's colt, sitting on a donkey's colt, right? Verse 16, these things understood not his disciples. In the time, those who were disciplined under him didn't even get it. They saw all this stuff going on. And a lot of times this happens too. We're in the midst of stuff. We're not even seeing what's going on. We're in the midst of a lot of people coming into the knowledge of who the Most High is, and we're not even seeing it come on. We're in the midst of seeing people realize that revolution is coming and that Yehoshua is going to be the head of it. People are starting to realize we need to come together as a nation. People are starting to realize we need to keep holy days. People are starting to realize, you know what, yeah, we happen, I'm misogynistic. Like people are starting to say, we really need to change. These things really need to grow, and we need to stop looking at stuff through the prism of the people who put us in this position in the first place. We're starting to admit and come out and say, you know what, I preached messages and they didn't make any sense. We come into the knowledge. We need to recognize what it is, right? They're realizing that if we're in the kingdom, then why are we still letting people vote on what the king says? People are starting to say, all the people that are getting assassinated when they're coming into the will of Yah, or saying that you should come back into who you were supposed to be the whole time. How you doing, SJ? Thanks for being on, right? How you doing, Big Mike? Thanks for being part of the community. People are starting to come into a position where, we cannot allow people who keep telling us that we're nothing tell us when we're allowed to say we're something. Isn't that something? People who raised you on being nothing, who raised you off of the breast of nothingness, are busy telling you when you can eat the meat of somethingness. I know that might not even be words. It is what it is to them. Those who raise you off the breast of nothingness are trying their hardest to tell you why it's okay, or trying to tell you when they're allowed to tell you when you can eat off the meat of somethingness. But when I was a child, I thought as a child, I speak as a child, I understood as a child. But now that I've gone into adulthood and I've become a man, I put away childish things. It is childish, right? It is childish of me to keep treating myself like nothing and waiting for the oppressor to tell me when I'm something. You would keep me on the breast. You would keep me on the bottle for the rest of my life and never let me eat the real meat of who I am. Aman, Ashe, all that, right? That's too much power for one man to have. They said that the Christ first. Hello, Anthony. If that's the best you got to do better than that. Come on, man. Just because I decided to have lots in my hair, just because I'm sitting around here with my smell goods and all that stuff and smelling like beautiful fruit and things like that, like my people smell like or whatever, and I don't meet your sensibilities by somebody else's kingdom, doesn't mean that I'm going to stop preaching and talking about what I'm talking about. You can at least come better than that. If you're going to come with trolling, you got to be better. Graduate. Right? Graduate in your trolling. Right? But back to what we're talking about, right? Something more significant than somebody who, once again, tries to take you down. Remember, this is what we go. This is why we say this stuff over and over again. Psalm 123. There are people that try to fill you with contempt. They are at ease with your scorning. That's how they got to where they got to. That's why they act the way they act. Right? You can't come down to their level. You can't. Right? You got to recognize what's going on. You got to recognize when people are trying to catch you, like they're trying to catch you into something. They want you to come down, because if you ever say that you are righteous based upon what you have been before the foundations of the world, the beast shows up to assassinate you. Be not afraid. Be not ashamed. Can I say this to you guys? It's going to take some time to build up some stamina in this, but real talk, for real. Be not ashamed when these people try to come up to you and I, and they try to make you and I feel insignificant for being ourselves. They were okay with you feeling insignificant for not matching up to their standard. When you found out you had a higher standard, now they're upset, and they were trying their best to pull you down. We keep talking about we the crab in the barrel. They're the crab in the barrel. Because when I was nothing, you ain't grab onto me. You ain't say nothing about my name. Now all of a sudden, when somebody is saying when I'm realizing because of who I was before the foundations of the world, and before you got your grimy hands on me and stuff like that, now all of a sudden you want to say something about me, right? I recognize that I'm higher than that, not because I'm better, but because my culture and the system I'm in makes me greater because it's perfect. And if I stay in a perfect system, I must be at a perfect level. That's why your Bible says, once again, Matthew 5:48, be ye perfect as your Father in heaven also is perfect. Right? Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven. Go to a higher level, right? It'll help you. Now, so back to the scripture, right? And then let's get into a little bit more stuff historically, right? So John chapter 12, verse 15, it says, fear not, daughter of Zion. Behold, thy king cometh, sitting on an ass's colt. Verse 16, these things understood not his disciples at first, but when Yehoshua was glorified, right? Then it was brought back to the remembrance by the Holy Spirit that these things were written of him. They had done these things unto him. So when they started to assassinate his character, in the moment, they didn't even see that they were assassinating his character because the religious leaders were losing steam. See, this gets really wild for some, what I'm about to say, but I'm just going to give you the truth once again. This gets really wild for some. For some, it'll be somewhat easier. I won't even say this is easy to stomach, but this gets really wild for some, but I'm going to tell you the truth, right? The Bible never declares this, that in our mind, we have been raised with this mindset that says, hey, they just didn't know who the Messiah was, because if they knew who the Messiah was, they would have never came against him. But the Bible doesn't say that. The Bible doesn't say that everybody knew he was the Messiah or didn't know. But it says the reason that they tried to take his life was because the people of Israel realized that their nation needed to be under another king besides the king that they served. Because the king they served gave them glory and stuff in the position that they had. But the Messiah, but the king whom Yehoshua served gave him glory and stuff in the way that he served. And you had one king against another king. You had one servant of a king who would become a king, of these people who had been the Pharisees and the kings who were under this emperor. And the ones who were under this emperor looked at him and said, you will not take the people that we have had come under us as we bow down to this emperor. You're not going to take our power away. It wasn't so much we don't think you're the Messiah. That was something that they used against him, sure, because that was something that they legally put before there, because they couldn't just go ahead and draw him up with charges. So they couldn't say he was healing people too much. You can't charge him with that. You can't charge him with he was causing people to eat food that were hungry. You can't really charge him with that. See, stay with me now. Stay with me now. This is we're talking about what? We're talking about beastly assassination. Right? You can't really charge him with, the children love to come and talk to him. You can't really charge him with that. You can't really charge him with, he speaks the word with authority. You can't really charge him with that. But what you can charge him with is, hey, he said that he's the king and you are our king. That's what they said. They didn't say, hey, he says he's the Messiah and the Messiah should be our king. No, they said, hey, this guy's saying he's the Messiah and we can't believe in the Messiah, because if we believe in the Messiah, that means that you can't be our king. They on purpose said we'd rather go with the laws of man than the laws of the Most High. I know you were taught that they just innocently and they just, they just had no clue and they were just oblivious. This was not ignorance. The only thing they could charge him with is what they charged him with. They assassinated his character. How so? They went to the culture, another culture where your character doesn't matter, and they spell things together, right? We don't spell words in our culture. We use character, right? But they put a spell together and they trapped him in it, and they hit him with a bunch of legalese and went away from law. And they put Pontius Pilate in a position where he was freed from it, but he had to say, by law, I wash my hands. But by legalese, hey, you guys go ahead and do what you got to do. This is why Yahushua told him, by law. He told Pontius Pilate, he said, look, this ain't even on you, bro. This ain't on you. You recognize who I am. You've realized it. You did your best to go ahead and bow down. It has nothing to do with you at this point. This is on them. This is on the Hellenistic Jew. This is on the one who's decided to go ahead and say they're in the Pharisees. They're the Pharisees now. They're the scribes now. They're the Sanhedrin now. They're the Sadducees now. And it's sad to see when the Sadducees come against the reality of who the Most High is. They come upon him. They see who he is. But they're so concerned with the fact that he would bring us back into being under him that they would lose some of the power that they had. That they'll go ahead and offer up our Messiah. I would say their Messiah, but problem is that how can he be theirs if they've clearly stated that they belong to another king? This is why the Bible's not written to everybody. Come on, somebody. How can he be their Messiah if they've already made it clear that we belong to you, Caesar? Pilate, look, we belong to your king. He's not our Messiah. He's not our king. Right after they said Hosanna in the highest, a week later, it was on. This is why, remember, Lazarus is raised from the dead. They up to this point are saying everything he's doing is of the devil and he's a blasphemer and this and that or whatever. He's been righteous. They can't catch him on anything. Now, wait a minute, Lazarus raised from the dead, and all these people, all the nation are leaving us to go and see about Yahushua and Lazarus. And then after they find out about Lazarus, now they want to know about Yahushua because he must be the king. He's more important than Lazarus. He raised him from the dead. And now they're following him around. And now, wait a minute. The next day after they check on Lazarus, the very next day, they know he's coming into Jerusalem, which is the capital. And he's coming into the capital, into the center of what we do. And everybody's laying down. They've never done this for any of us, but they're laying down palm leaves and palm branches prophetically, being obedient to the law, saying, we know who this person is. He is the king. Now, the same people who laid that down would be the people that say, crucify him. Why? Because what happens, the religious leaders say, we must go ahead and assassinate his character. It will make him look so bad that even the people that saw the king in him will now try to see nothing but criminal in him. The people that saw the blessing in him will now see nothing but a curse in him. Matter of fact, they don't mind just putting him on this tree and nailing him to it, that he would be a curse. Yehoshua takes away the power, right? I'm not saying you can't be rich and be under the Most High, but you don't get rich because everybody thinks you are the Most High. Somebody caught that, right? I'm not saying you can't be rich and be about what the Most High says, but you can't be rich because everybody thinks you the Most High. Not in this. Oh, no, no, no. Come on, somebody. You might get 5 million views. You might get 5 million followers, but you're not gonna get 5 million followers in the kingdom because people think that you can't. Like, if you make a mistake, that they're not gonna leave you, or you doing something that's against the law, they're just gonna go ahead and let you do it. No, you can get 5 million viewers or 5 million followers because these people want to follow Christ, and you're willing to lay your life down for them, for the sheep. It's different in here. They get quiet when you talk to people like this. You ever notice you talk to people like this and they get quiet? You preach sermons like this in churches, they get quiet because we're not dealing with the same old. You can't be the same. Look, you got to know who you are. When you come into the room and everybody hates you, it's because they hated Christ. Are you ready for people to go ahead and curse the name? They blessed you yesterday. Are you ready for them to talk bad about you today? They're checking on you today. They're saying, wait a minute, we saw you resurrect someone from the dead. There must be kingdom in you. Wow. And then they'll follow you. They'll even lay down. They'll give you all the accolades. Okay, be ready when they lay down those accolades. Recognize a lot of those people, they're not studying. They know enough to see that what you're doing is kingdom, but all it takes is for the crowd to change. All it takes is for a little manipulation. All it takes for somebody to go ahead and give them some peer pressure, and all of a sudden the people that loved you and wanted to lay down stuff and borderline worship, tell them chill out. Don't worship me. But they'll worship you. And now all of a sudden, take yourself off the cross. What happened? What happened so quickly? What happened so quickly? You was lifting me up yesterday. What happened so quickly? You were just, my friend, what happened so quickly? I was telling you things about myself. I thought I could trust you with information. And now today you're ready to ridicule you. What happened so quickly? You said you loved me yesterday. Now I'm the bane of your existence. What happened so quickly? So you must recognize that just because he was the king, and just because people know that they need this, what did we say yesterday, I believe? The Holy Spirit led us to say, you got to be careful where people's bread is buttered. Be careful where people's bread is buttered. They might know that he's the bread, but the butter is over here. And some people just won't eat the bread. Be careful. If he's the bread, he's unleavened. And some people, they're just used to the texture. Right? So if we give you the unleavened bread that has all the nutrients you'll ever need in life, just eat of it. But somebody says, no, over here it's fluffy and it's nice and it's cool, and they put frosting and icing and all this stuff on it. They even got some pork on the side and they got this and all this stuff. And somebody says, yeah, but there's unleavened. Just eat of it. You don't have to add anything to it. Recall, in Malachi chapter 1, verse 1, it talks about this is a burden. Malachi says this word he's going to give is a burden given to him by Yahweh for the people of Israel. And the word burden, when you look it up, it's not actually burden. It is the word unleavened. It is the word masah. Now, why are they using unleavened in the Hebrew, and then in Middle English, they're trying to use this word burden? They're trying to tell you that in order to keep the word of Yah unleavened, it's a burden. It takes a lot of effort sometimes, especially in the systems that we're in these wicked systems where people are trying to make sure that they get you to come outside of Yah's will all the time. It's a burden. Do you hear what I'm saying, my brother, my sister? It's a burden. It's a burden. But we carry burdens. That burden of proof even, right? Burden of proof, you don't necessarily want on you want on Yah. Even go deeper, because what you're saying is righteous. Some people don't even recognize what you just said, how deep that goes, right? Right? But that burden, it's a burden, but it's still supposed to be. Right? It's a burden. Yeah, it's a burden. And I'm sorry, Morgan, I apologize. Is it Leah? I'm not sure how you would pronounce it. Please forgive me. Right? But it's a burden. But it's mandatory. It's mandatory that we keep this burden, that we carry this cross like our Messiah, like our King carried it. Right? That it's a burden. Peter found out about the burden because the Messiah is hanging, or he's on his way to. Right? And hey, are you not one of his disciples? No, not me. Are you not? No, not me. Are you cock-a-doodle-doo? Right? How you doing, Sister Sheba? He found out real quick it's a burden. And a lot of people, you're infatuated with the love that everybody gives you. Right? But don't realize that this comes with hate. And it's going to come with anger. It's going to come with frustration. And a lot of stuff, like, and let me say it to you like this. When you tell somebody the truth, even for you, let's break this down to some simplicity, especially if we just want to talk about even being Afrocentric, that part of it, right? Let's be honest. When you learn the truth about a lot of stuff, you were angry. Even if you weren't one of those people that took your anger out on people, some of us were. Some of us took our anger out on people. Some of us were angry for a couple of weeks. Some of us said we're never going to read the Bible again. Some of us said we're never going to talk to a white person and blah, blah, all this stuff, right? But when you learn the truth about a lot of things, even just something about what's Afrocentric, be honest, a lot of us were angry. And so the anger that happens, it comes with the territory. You tell somebody the truth and they've lived by a lie for a long time, something in them snaps for a second and says, wait a minute, everything I was under was a lie. Oh, that's hurt. That hurts. I know people don't want to act like it is. I know you're too tough, right? I know you're too tough in your outer exterior to ever ensure that people recognize that you might have had some tendency, right, and some propensity at some point in your life to be angry. But yeah, it's a natural response to find out that you've been lied to your entire life, that you would be angry. It's a natural response. I know you don't want to hear that, but it's a natural response. When you find out almost everything you've been told is a lie, or even if it wasn't everything, enough stuff that was your foundation was a lie, that you basically been living a lie, and you find out the truth about it, yeah, it hurts. And you get angry, and you get frustrated. And so you got to recognize as you tell people the truth, a lot of people are going to be upset and angry and frustrated with you simply because you're telling them something that causes them to have to look at the entirety of their lives, the entirety of their relationships even, and say, has anything been based off of the truth? They have to ask the question, has anything been based off of the truth? Is anything that I've ever done? And how you doing, Conscious Brown Eyes? Thanks for being on with us. How you doing, Money Green, if I didn't say so already? That's hard. Right? Going back to our more modern examples that we have for today. You know, it's hard for somebody to realize when I say what I'm saying and somebody says, no, that's not true. And I say, well, what about Malcolm X? And they say, no, they're not just attacking us. Malcolm was blah, 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 all the stuff they told you. And I say, okay, well, what about Martin? No, you know Martin, blah, blah. Okay, well, what about Medgar? No, I'm just going by M's, by the way, in the same place. What about Marcus Garvey? Oh, no, well, you know, he was a rabble rouser, and if he blah, blah, but I mean, he didn't do anything to say we should be a nation. We had businesses, all this stuff. No, you know, he was too much. Okay, well, what about Oluwata Hequiano? No. Some of you don't even know what I said. Right? What about Toussaint Louverture? No, it's what about Nzinga? No, you gotta comprehend. What about Shaka? No, you blah blah. Well, what about, you know? It keeps on going deeper, and people after a certain while, you can't deny it, and you get angry because I'm not saying something that's just like some fallacy. I'm not finding truth where there is no truth. I'm telling you, I'm laying out facts, and then watch this. It's not just that it's facts; it's contextual facts that really mess with people because the context is there. And the fact is there. It's not I'm just saying something random, right? Like, look, you can't say that they didn't take out Olympia in Toga, right? Or Togo, excuse me, right? You have to admit what they did to Thomas Sankara, right? You have to admit what they did to Kwame Nkrumah. Right? We have to be honest. We have to admit what they did to Lumumba. Right? We can't keep dancing around it. We have to admit what they did to these people. We have to admit what they did to Celine and Finland, what they did to Castro. You know, when Lumumba, they did the same thing they did to Castro. Lumumba, he went to the West and democracy first. Said, you guys are the ones that did what you did, and you allowed Belgium to do us dirty, and you allowed the CIA to still do us dirty. Can you go ahead and help us? They said, we don't want you to be in power. We'd rather have Belgium still doing what they're doing, or we'd rather have somebody who's a figurehead be in position. We need a puppet, not you. So then he goes over to Russia, and he goes over to Cuba. Cuba, by the way, they hate Castro, who came over to them first as well before he went over to communists, because democracy wouldn't help him and his people make sure they could eat, because they said they'd rather have a figurehead, a puppet, and not him. So he helped a lot of African nations. This is why Ghana, South Africa, the Congo, Central Africa, Burkina Faso, a lot of places, we don't have no problem with Castro, even though he did a lot of problematic stuff. And I'm just telling you, a lot of them have no problem. And you know why? Because Castro sent his soldiers over to these places, and they shed Cuban blood, right? While the CIA and while the West and while France and while England and while the United States of America and the United Nations and all those people were sending all these people to do wild, crazy stuff to us, while the Chinese were being allowed to do stuff to us and all this stuff, they shed Cuban blood. That's why a lot of people don't have a problem with Castro. That's why Castro was a very hard situation to talk about. When you talk to certain people of certain colors. Hey, how you doing, Inter Chelsea? How long have you been? I don't know, just kind of demonic. Hopefully you'll be able to get that. I'm praying for you that even in your trolling, something might lead you to something to where you cause people to be, better than that. But that's a demon in you that causes somebody. You have to try to do something to somebody's character like that. And I'm praying for you. I hope that you get better. Right? That's demonic. Sometimes I just got to call something what it is. That's demonic. Praying for you. Right? That being said, you gotta get to a place where people don't want to talk about this. Right? People don't want to realize that, like, we went to a certain place, and we went to a certain place where Yah was trying to keep us through other people, right? Or at least we reached out to help through these so-called governments, right? We went to these places, we went to these so-called other governments and tried to get help. And when we tried to get help from these people, they wouldn't help us. So then all of a sudden we said, okay, we'll go to somebody else. And then they immediately try to call you demonic. They immediately try to say you're wrong. They immediately try to say you were trying to do this, that, the third, right? They immediately did those things. You have to ask yourself. A lot of people don't know why. Right? You have to realize what's going on. Right? You have to realize, like, what's going on with these things. And a lot of people don't recognize it. You see, so you have to come into this place. Why are they trying to assassinate your character? Why are they trying to assassinate your character? And why do they only do it with certain people? You hear what I'm saying? And over and over and over again, the same person, the same people, the same nation, when they try to do the same thing. Why is it that they send out a Candace Owens to make sure that you know that all black people are terrible and that all Native Americans are cannibals? And Inter Chelsea, if you're still on, I don't know if you're still on or not, but just to let it be known, you already put down there for hate speech and stuff like that. Because even if you want to call me that or whatever, you know better, right? To cover up their guilt from their actions, and also to cover to cover up the guilt, I guess is the best way to say it, because they don't want you to go down to the place and be like, hey, they did this on purpose, like we just talked about with the Messiah. They did this on purpose. They knew who the Messiah was. Don't let these people fool you into being like they don't know who the Messiah is. Don't let them fool you. They knew who the Messiah was. They did not try to get rid of Yahushua because they didn't think he was the Messiah. They got rid of Yahushua because he took away their followers. People in church aren't getting mad at people who are saying, get into what Yah said and get back into Israelite ways and get back into the kingdom before we started getting into Circe. They're not mad at you because they really truly believe that you're not of the Most High. They're mad at you because people aren't going to come follow them. That's why they're mad. That's why they're upset. You know, they're trying their hardest because they're upset that you are not bowing down to them. Because watch this: if you don't bow down to them, if you're not a chattel slave, then there goes their capital. Their capital is dependent upon your slavery. If you were coming out of that and you're not mentally enslaved anymore to that, if you're not captivated by that anymore, if dating doesn't matter, like what? Like think about this: how much money is made off of dating? We know dating's not even biblical. We know dating's not in our culture. We know dating is something that messes people over, right? If you stop dating, how much money is lost? Let's take out the fact that we know Valentine's Day and all that stuff is doing some weird Roman Catholic romantic deity worship and stuff like that. Take that, put that to the side, right? Because Cupid and Pan and Little Boy and PED, etc. stuff going on. We know what that is. Put that to the side. If you stop going out on Valentine's Day, there's some companies that if it's not for Valentine's Day, they probably don't make enough money to survive throughout the year. Because at least they'll get a whole bunch of customers throughout the day on that day because nobody really comes to see them like that throughout the year. You take away that, how many businesses fall? You said literally upset because you dress modestly so you make you uncomfortable for your fashion Nova. Mm-hmm. You said you save when you do not celebrate these pagan holidays. It's always going to be better. Well, yeah, especially in that regard. Mm-hmm. And how you doing, Dre? Right? How? I mean, just think about this. How much money do you save on Christmas? At this point, it's about capital. We got to enslave you to make you think that Jesus is the reason for the season when your so-called Jesus was born on the Day of Atonement. Or at least around it. Right? You wouldn't celebrate Halloween and then try to call it Harvest Day if you were honest about the fact that on June 16th this year, the day of Pentecost, that's when Harvest Day is. When we give our first fruits and we wave it. Yeah. Right? You wouldn't, if you invested anything, you invest your first fruits towards actually harvest and making sure you're putting something in the storehouse that they might be meat in your house. But if people were convicted, if people wanted to do this, if people wanted to actually save money, if they wanted to develop their own communities, then you wouldn't invest in Halloween and make sure that you still spent the same money, got the same candy, bobbing for the same apples, right? Think about that. You know, got the witch's brew and the apples would be in there and you would put human beings in there. They got Bugs Bunny cartoons you see and all that stuff, and Bugs Bunny sitting up there and he's helping to cut up the stuff and all that as the witch is sitting up there stirring it up and all that stuff. We know what this stuff is. But you become so comfortable with what the enemy wants to provide for you that you can't wait to go ahead and have your child be involved in the same exact stuff. And then you say, well, I'm not dressed like a witch while they're bobbing for apples and we're putting human beings in there and stuff like that. We're not dressed like witches. We're dressed like saints. That's even worse. You said let them stay mad? Yeah. Even worse. We know better. Harvest Day is the day look, Harvest Day, we already know what Harvest Day is. Right? Harvest Day is when in the midst, the first fruits, in the midst of your spring summer, right? In the midst of when things are at their highest point, when Yah's giving it to you, you give him the best out of the year, and we wave it unto him. Thank you, Yah. That's part of Pentecost. We know what time it is. Why would we wait until everything's withered or we've dried everything out and then we say, okay, well, we're about to go into the winter time. We wave it before you. That's not the first fruits. Show him in faith that he's going to take care of you through the winter time before it's even close to fall and go ahead and give him the first fruits. That's what this is. Right? How much money would you save if you stopped basically doing the same thing you do on Halloween and Christmas right? I guess more Halloweenish than it is Christmas. But you stop being into Ishtar, which is against the will of Yah, and which is a woman that was married to her own son Nimrod, right? And came against the will of the Most High. Well, how much money would you save in Easter if you stop having to have Easter egg hunts and do this and do that and do this nice, okay, during Easter we'll just give candy, or you spending so much money to make sure your child can be part of the stuff at the White House and they can do the White House thing, and all that is that the White House is not just a plantation that's under the same Esau spirit we're supposed to be away from? How much would you save? If you were really saved, how much would you save? Oh my greatness. How much, if you was really saved, how much would you save? Come on, Holy Spirit. That's a word right there. How you doing, Scorpion? Yeah, Christmas, Halloween, said it would produce bad fruit and a low bank account. Mm-hmm. Keeping up with the Joneses. Or I need my children to have, shoot, you know what? And all of a sudden the people, well, are we just not supposed to have any fun? This and that. You act like there's no other holy days that exist. Matter of fact, there's even things that are traditional. I wouldn't even call them holy days in the world. But there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, we give honor to Martin Luther King Jr. But a lot of people don't even do that. You just waiting to get off work so you can barbecue and invite somebody to the cookout. You know, but besides that, there's other holy days that we have and things we're supposed to do all throughout the year and that we have a great time doing. But somebody's making you believe that because you won't do the world's fun, that you can't have fun in the kingdom. Where do they do that at? Because you play basketball, you can't have fun, or because you were playing basketball, you decide you want to play football now, you won't have fun playing football? Because you play football, but you want to play baseball now, you can't have fun playing baseball? Because you play baseball, but you want to play soccer now, you can't have fun playing soccer? Where they do that at? Who taught us this, right? Who has got us to a place where we are throwing kingdom sense away to be commoners? Now, how you doing, babe? My wife is on the Honorable Alma. As always, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist. Biologist by degree. Love you, babe. Thank you so much for being on. Appreciate you as always. You said you always felt great sadness on MLK Day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, why does our fun have to be their fun? Yeah, we have a different culture. Exactly. This is why even it's weird. Your marriages have to look like their marriages. You know, in Africa, they started doing that for a long time now because of colonization. We act like they're not colonized as well. Sometimes they act like they're not either, right? But you go over there enough, you'll discover, you look at how they live. A lot of stuff they're doing is not because of their culture, it's because somebody else told them to do it as well. They were slaves too. Heck, they're part of your family. They don't want to talk about it like that. Hey, if that's your way of saying hello, how you doing? I'm cool with you trying to call me whatever you need to. How you doing, Big Mo? So, and all these different things that we're talking about. People are not recognizing you have been taught to be right? Or you've been taught that anti their establishment means you're anti-establishment. Right? If I talk about Marcus Garvey, that means that I'm supposed to be anti-establishment. Yeah, I'm anti-beast. I'm pro-Christ, anti-beast. You're pro-beast, anti-Christ. So we're going to be different. Right? We're going to be different. We're not built the same. We're not peers. That's why we said that earlier, what was that, last week? Right? In one of the evening sessions, maybe Thursday evening. We're not peers. We're not the same. We're not built the same. I don't look at the world the way you look at it. Right? Even you. Who's trying to make me feel bad or whatever. I don't care about you can't try to make me look bad. You're not on my level. If you were, you wouldn't try to do that without knowing who I am. Right? You see what I'm saying? Like I think I was telling this, I forget who I was talking. Oh well, we're talking to one of the teenagers yesterday. Right? And I was telling them, people come on here, they try to make you feel bad, try to make you, feel less than this and that or whatever, because they ain't got their own stuff together. If they did, they wouldn't be coming to your stuff trying to make you look bad. But you have to be in a position where you say, I realize that I'm doing something that's greater than me having to try and worry about these cats that can't cook. Because it would be one thing if you could actually cook me in a manner that made me have to stop. But you can't even cook me right. Like you one of the people that you're not a chef when it comes to this. Like when it comes to frying people up, I can fry you up if I wanted. right? But I'm not trying to do that, right? You're not on my level even when it comes to cooking. Like, you gotta recognize these people are babies, and babies in the satanic system. It'd be one thing if they were babies in the kingdom off the sincere milk. They're not even in the kingdom. They haven't even gone through being born again. They don't even have a gestational period they've gone through. Like, these little babies trying to talk to me, right? They need to go ahead and find their mama, their father, who wants them to be bastards, fatherless, sourceless, and not even know who they are and identify with their own people, right? You got to recognize who you are. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to recognize who you are. Like, all this stuff you talking about, you doing this and doing that, trying to talk bad about me and all this stuff, whatever. Like, you're not even on my level. Your father wants you to be without a father. Your father, the devil, wants you to be without a source. He wants you to be in chaos. Well, my mother passed away, but even if you want to go there, my mother is greater than you. Who are you to where you would try and fry up my mother because you have no respect? Something that you would never say to my face, saying all this bumbleclot stuff and all this stuff like that. You never say it to my face because you're a punk. You're beneath me, right? Especially when you talk like that. My father is the one I'm talking about in heaven, but my father is actually somebody who's alive right now who does things and has raised a man who's willing to make sure his community's better. Who is your father, and what has he taught you to make sure that you try and make fun of people who are of your culture and want your people to be better? You would? Well, you can come on and say it, try and find it. Right? But you're a coward. Because even if you would say it to my face, see, watch this, without me knowing anything about you, I wouldn't just say this stuff randomly online. What am I? I'm somebody that's willing to say something back to you and not try to just make fun of you just because. I'm going off of your behavior. You see that? Now, who is your father? Who taught you that it's okay to try and make fun of somebody for any reason, just because they look different or they believe something different or whatever, without you going into it? Who taught you that that was acceptable? Because that's coward behavior. My father taught me that it's best to not act cowardly, unlike your father did, apparently. Or maybe he did and you just are disrespectful to your father. Because men address each other with respect first, not trying to make them feel bad. See, what the reason why you're even angry now is because it's not going the way you thought it would. You thought you would talk to somebody you thought was a little boy, and you would say something that whatever you wanted, and I wouldn't address it at all, and you would just go ahead and be able to say some stuff that is harassment, bullying, and stuff like that. I got time for it when the Holy Spirit says I got time for it. When she released me too, I don't mind talking to you. That's a little boy move. That's a coward move. I have a son in there that has more respect. 8-year-old, about to turn 9, has more respect for community and for culture and for people than you. That's why I call you a little boy. That's why I said what you do is cowardly. But you know what? Dang, I was going to say, my phone number is actually in the chat, but today it's not. It's not in the description yet. But if you want to come back and look for it after the video's over, you can text me or whatever. We can set up a time to talk. And then all the stuff that you're talking about, you can go ahead and say it to me. But in the meantime, why not scroll and go somewhere else if you feel like all you can do is make fun of something that this doesn't have anything to do for you, unless you're literally somebody that goes from video to video to video, doing little boy stuff, trying to make fun of people, you see? And also, too, learn how to spell, right? I put characters together, but you learn how to spell if you're going to go to that route as well, because it's hard to even entertain this, to be honest, because now you're showing you're not even making sure that you study on a certain level. I'm not tough? No. I'm not worried about being tough. You'll find out whatever tough is, right? But you're not tough because you sit behind the keyboard. You see, I'm going to go ahead and just report you at this point. And if they let you continue to watch the stuff or whatever, then you can holler at me later. Or you can just go to another video and find out the information, right? And by the way, also too, make sure you bring some folk too, depending on where we meet up, because I go out and I go in public and stuff, and I promise you this and that. But yeah, I don't have to be tough to deal with you. I don't have to be tough to deal with you, right? You see what I'm saying? But you want some stuff, right? But I've given you your, 2, 3, 4 minutes of fame, whatever it is now. Right? And I'm cool. So anyways, you do what you do. You stay on here if you want. You go ahead, right? And like I said, if you actually wanted to contact me or whatever and deal with me as a man, my information's out there, easy enough to get in touch with me. All right. So anyway, but like I said, this is the reason why. And then people get upset with the moderators, and y'all come at them, and y'all come on. So there's the reason why we have moderators, because you have people on here who are concerned with being righteous, who are concerned with showing love, who are concerned with, are you treating people with respect, right? Like they're not concerned with any of that, right? Talk with all this stuff, but they're not trying to grow. Now, this person who's doing all this doesn't even, or maybe they recognize and they're mad that I'm bringing it up, but they're a clear case of they're a clear case of the oppressor has caused you to think that it's better to hurt yourselves or hurt your own community than it is to grow and love each other, grow with and love each other, right? Appreciate you, right? But this is a very, very clear indication, right? Big Mo is upset because, for real, he's not really doing anything of value in his life. And I pray for people like that. I specifically call out Big Mo because that's what you want. So I pray for people like Big Mo who are under this belief system and under this thought process and under this thing where it's like in their mind, they really, really, they really, really hate themselves, and then hate anybody who says that they should be delivered from something. How you doing, Brother Craig? What are you talking about, Big Mo? You're on my platform. I'm sorry. I promise you. Give me 30 seconds, and then I'm about to block the person. Okay? Because this is just taking away from stuff. But give me 30 seconds. I promise I'll be nice. But see, somebody just muted what you said, deleted what you said, because I was about to go ahead and just get rid of it. But watch this. Let me just say this. You can't say to me that I start talking stuff to you when you come on here talking about Bumba, Cloud, this and then all this stuff, whatever, right? And don't know anything about me. And then you talk about my mother, and then things like that. And I said what you did was cowardly. You addressed my mother. And then I said, well, your mother might not have this. Then you try to address my father and stuff. I say something about your father, whatever. However you want to do it. I don't even care about all that. You are somebody who's very immature. You're somebody who's not worth the time at this point. You're showing yourself to be a little boy, right? And if you're talking about, oh, I'll beat you, or whatever, I doubt you would, right? But even if you would, it still wouldn't make you a man. It would just make you a little boy who beat up a man, right? So I'm just going to say this nicely, and then I'm going to leave you alone. I hope that your life does well. I hope that you do great. I'm going to stop here because there is a part of me that will try to find you, and that would make me the little boy that you are. And there's a part of me that would call up some cats to try and find you, but that would just make me a little boy. So I'm not going to threaten you. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to pull back, and if you feel like that makes me less than you or whatever, then it makes me less than you, right? But I've learned to be greater than you. I don't deal with little boys. I teach little boys, but they're not on my level. And if I beat a little boy up, then I'm an abuser. So I would rather than abuse you and possibly dog walk you or whatever the case might be, let me just go ahead and do what I'm supposed to do. You have a great day. You keep on typing what you typing. You keep on talking trash the way you talk. Like I said, I'm not that easy to find a way to communicate with. If you want to communicate with me as a man, you can feel free to do so. Okay? But other than that, we don't have time for it. I'm not going to go ahead and assassinate my character by allowing you to try and assassinate it to get me on your level. So I'm done talking to you. I just wanted to be known. It's on wax. So all the stuff that we just reported you for and stuff, when they come to you, they'll be able to watch these videos and see how the conversation went. And you're just going to have to deal with whatever comes. And unfortunately, you won't be able to. You know what? I won't even say that. I pray that you get better and that you do well and that you be the keyboard gangster or wankster, whatever, right, that you need to be, right? And I'm going to leave it there. So I don't know if people already got rid of all your stuff, or it looks like somebody might have. So it is what it is. If you pop up again, we'll just make sure that you can't come back on. But anyway, sorry about that, y'all. But once again, like when you're coming into kingdom, people hate you because of what you represent and because you're different, right? Right? And that's why I was even talking about earlier. Can you let go of those things? Like yeah, okay, there's a part of me that like, hey man, I really want to find out where this cat is, and I'm gonna go ahead and give him my address and blah blah. He ain't gonna pull up. First of all, number one. Number two, even if he did, what do I look like putting my address out in public area? But you see what I'm saying? Like you start going through this stuff where you lose yourself because of the things that you uplifted. There was a point in my life where I uplifted that drama more than I did my own freedom to have peace of mind. It's like when people got mad at J. Cole, still mad at J. Cole. You can't call yourself the greatest and you ain't want to go to war. I mean, he didn't want to be involved in the gossip thing. He said he's 40 years old. He said he'd rather prefer sleep. You know? And here I am being a pastor. What do it look like a pastor going looking for this dude? You know what I'm saying? Right? Like, what does it look? How does it make us look bad in any way, shape, or look better in any way, shape, or form? You know? Right now, if he did something to my family or something like that, fine. I got to do what I got to do. But as I said before, somebody tries to assassinate my character. That's kind of the only thing where it kind of gets on my flesh. But you can kind of say whatever you want about me. This person knows nothing about me. And if his whole thing is ad hominem, which was his retort was your mama, okay. Like that's all you got. That's all you got, your mama. My mama was one of the greatest women that ever walked the face of this planet. Who's your father? My father is great. Is great. He was great enough to teach me how to make sure that I didn't come at you and stoop to your level as a little boy. And you really missed who my father or fathers is. And if you realized that I was his anointed, you wouldn't touch him. You know. So, anyways, but that's why we say you got to make sure that you're in this place or in this position, or you recognize what comes with this. People try to assassinate your character. I love it. By the way, if you notice today, this has been even more than usual, and we're talking about what today? Beastly assassination. When you start not looking like the beast, or how they want you to be governed, or how they want you to govern yourself, then what happens? They try to assassinate you, your name, your character, or try to assassinate you. Be ready for it. Right? I love it with the Holy Spirit. She gives us something, and then people just start coming by, and all things work together. You know what I'm saying? Like all you did, all these people have done so far today is come on here and validate everything. That's all they've done. They come on here and they validated everything. Like we say, stay true, tell the truth. People are gonna come on and be upset about it. Come on. Hey, if you decide that you want to say that your hair is okay and that it's all right to grow it out and it's all right for you to wear your culture up, look at your hair, it must smell, this and that, blah blah. Are you serious? Right? But it's because we're talking kingdom. You say he did not finish the sentence, Pastor, your mama. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Yeah. And even like it was a childhood move because you know what happens in your childhood. In childhood, you never say something about somebody's mama. And even if you're a grown person, you really should never say about nobody's mama, anyways, right? But all you had to do was say back in the day, your mama. Because that's all you had. You didn't have anything to retort. You didn't have anything. That's matter of fact. Those of you who've been on with us long enough, when we've talked about ad hominem and explained how ad hominem works, right? Have you guys ever thought to yourself when you looked at how ad hominem works? Literally, that when you look at ad hominem is when somebody has nothing. It means to the man, and they basically can't say anything. We've literally explained it in this fashion that when somebody is talking in debate, or when somebody's having something they can't win the debate, or when somebody's joning, or they frying you up, or they playing the dozens, or whatever you would like to call it, and you're making fun of somebody, or you just talking to somebody. Let's say it could be something as simple as, "Hey, you know what? Our group in our class could do better if you did your homework." Somebody has nothing better to say, so what do in their juvenile mind? They say, "Your mama." And then people go, "Ooh," and it doesn't matter if what they said even bears any weight or any seriousness or any validity. It just is something to make everybody go, "Ooh," and it shows that person has no ability apologetically to say anything of value, right? So all they can do, that's all they have. Once you get past that, what you got though? "I'm gonna beat you up." They went to the next childhood thing. "I'm gonna beat you up." Man, please. I'm 6'5.5". Military training, kung fu training, right? I won't say I'm the strongest, fastest, quickest dude, but I promise you I'm not like the smallest dude that you ever seen in your life. I would like to see you try, right? But either way, why does it matter? Like, why is it the first place you go to? Because you have nothing else. The only thing he can do is try to destroy anything. Anything he can try to put his hands on. "Well, I don't like your hair." Okay, I tell you, I don't care about that. What you got left? "I don't like your clothes." I don't care about that. What you got left? Your mama. Okay, fine. My mom's greater than anything you'll ever know about, and I love my mom no matter what you said. I'll beat you up. That's you have to realize and recognize that's juvenile behavior, but it's also worldly behavior. It's what the beast does. Look at what they do. Hey, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. says, give us jobs and stuff. Hey man, we don't like the jobs you're talking about. Well, all we're saying is maybe can we at least start with black boys and black girls holding hands? Why would you want to hold hands? You're asking for too much too soon. See, you're just like Malcolm X. They say stuff that don't even matter. Then eventually at some point you better stop it. We're going to hurt you. Then we're going to throw a rock at you. Then we're going to throw a brick and hit you in the head. Then we're going to take your life. Because that's all you got. You're immature. You're a beast. You're imperfect. Imperfect means you're immature. You're not complete. That's all you got. Right? And then what happens with us is we say, well, one person is gone, so what they stood for is not gone. Now remember, we just talked about with John Brown and the Battle Hymn of the Republic. His truth goes marching on. What he stood for continues to march on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. So even if somebody was willing to give their life, it's just one, and they've already shown no matter how much they've tried, Yah will not allow them to take us all out. Matter of fact, he don't really got to take any of us out if we start working together. But that we shouldn't worry about. Hey, look, if my life is, watch this. If my life is forfeit at some point because Yah says my life is forfeit, I only got one life and I only have one death. I might as well wear both well. Can I say that again? Somebody might have missed that in the back. Look, I've only been given one life and I've only been given one death. And if my life is to be forfeit for righteousness purposes, and that's what Yah wants, not what I want, but if that's what Yah wants, if that's what he would decide, then let me wear both my life and my death well. To where you would be proud to say his life was forfeit for us. His life was lived for us. His life was forfeit for Yah. His life was lived for Yah. His life was forfeit for his family. His life was lived for his family. That's the best I could ever ask. Let my life or my passing both be for Yah's glory. Right? That's the best I can ask for. I know somebody say that's not the best. Don't talk like that. I'm not saying that's what I agree to. I'm saying if it be Yah's will, if he were to show me, if I were to see in a second, in a moment, he might show me this is the time, then guess what? Let my life be for him and let my passing be for him. Let my life be for generations and let my passing be for generations. Right? I've said this before. I have many hours upon hours and written stuff and documented stuff and people I've talked to and stuff like that. Let my son, right? All these videos and everything like that, people see all these things you can watch hours upon hours. Some of you could watch everything that I put up and probably wouldn't be able to watch everything for the rest of your life if you tried. That's how much stuff we have out there. And I'm figuring I'm asking y'all for 150 years. If he were to just give me 20 more years of being in these public spaces like this, then oh my greatness. I can only imagine if he were to give us 20 more years of this, it'd be impossible for them to get rid of this. And what we've established and what we built together and how we're growing and the people who are preaching now and all the different things that are going on. It would be impossible, right? But this is not just for you. It's for my shorty. It's for my son over there, right? And he's going to be able to go back through this at some point, prayerfully with me watching with him, but who knows? But he'll be able to watch back. If 20 years from now, he'll be able to watch back 30, 40 years of material. If he'd be able to hear discussions I'm having with my younger self when I was before his age now, talking about what I was going through when I was 4 years old and 5 years old and 6 years old, and he can go back and he can be a man now at that age of 29, 30 years old and be able to listen to his father's experience of stuff before he was even thought of or conceived, at least on this plane, on this side of Zion. This is for him too. This is for babies that aren't even born. This is for my great-grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren, my great-great-great-grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, that are going to hear this word. I'll say my wife and I, Amma and I's great-great-grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren. They're going to hear this stuff. They're going to watch this stuff. They're going to listen. They're going to have people have discussions on this. There's going to be people that are going to preach word and be able to say that the Holy Spirit helped Kofi to be able, right, help Amma and Kofi to be able to establish something that caused generations to grow. They're going to talk about my Bruda that was with me and stuff. But who is this Bruda? We'll come to find out that was Brother Charles. And he was doing this and he was helping with this. And they're going to say, well, who was this who was this Minister Tamara person? Well, you know, she was giving word and she had this, and look at her channel and blah blah. And they're gonna say, well, what about that? They're gonna talk about you, all of us. They're gonna start saying, who are these people that help to reestablish a nation according to the will of Yah? Who are the people that we look at now? And we can say, well, even though they are not the Most High, and even though they aren't the ones that wrote the Bible and this and that, they gave us a word from on high because they were followers of the way, right? This is about nation building. And every time you start going into a nation building, every time you start going back to who you are, there's a spirit against you. Remember, it's not just physical, it's a spiritual thing as well. Thank you for the love, right? So that means that you got to be ready that every time you open your mouth, every time you live your life well, every time that you wear your culture, every time you establish righteousness in your home, there's somebody that's ready to say, we come against thee. In the name of the devil. In the name of the nameless one. That's why we said bastardless, without authority. He has no authority, but you give him authority. It is a fake authority. Just like the United States is not a real country, it's a fake corporation. You are coming in the name of a nameless one. That's why he is Hasatan. That's why he is the Lucifer. Lucifer is a title, not a name. You've been tricked. Even people that use that name, that's not even the Israelite name. Lucifer is not a name, it is a title. But they want him to be their father so bad that they're trying to establish a name. The Satan got kicked out of heaven, and when he got kicked out of heaven, it means he lost his authority. All the angels that you fallen angels and you keep trying to find their names, they might have had names at one point, but when they got kicked out, they lost their names. Why? Because they are all without authority. This is why when they say to the angel, and they say to the fallen angel inside the man, which were there many of them, he said, Yehoshua says, what is your name? And he doesn't give him a name, does he? He says, we are legion, meaning what? Our title is Legion. We come together, but he never gave a name. Why? Because they have no authority. They have no authority. So why are you giving them authority when they have none? I didn't say giving them license. Every once in a while, fine. You might need to talk to somebody, let them know. But why are you giving them authority? Why is it getting to a place where these people are affecting your sleep? Why is it getting to a place where you will not resurrect a nation, forgetting that resurrected power is in you? Is Yehoshua in you? And if he's in you, we talked about this earlier, wherever he is the resurrection. How is it that stuff in your life is not being resurrected and he's in you? How is it that you keep being oppressed, but he's in you? How is it that you're depressed, but you can't put your foot on the accelerator, press the accelerator, and start realizing that every time something tries to come against me, I will press the harder. I press towards the mark, towards the top, towards the last character, towards the place it is finished, towards the place of perfection. I press towards the top, the cross, the mark of the high calling. It's a high calling to carry this cross. What do you think you signed up for? That's why you have to be more than a conqueror. You're fighting against conquerors. That means they have conquered. To be a conqueror is to be one who has conquered. To be a conqueror means they have taken over. You have to be more than that. This is revolution. Oh my greatness. I'm not trying to get you to drink Kool-Aid. I'm trying to get you to have the Spirit. I'm trying to give you some water. I'm trying to give you some fruit. I'm trying to get you H3O2 in your life. They had you drink the Kool-Aid because you keep staying in a dead place, in a barren land, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Even your precious Einstein told you not to do that. Do something different. Worship Yah different. Give glory unto him different. Realize you built different. You're not the same. You're different. You built different. You're not the same. And if we have a different king, then we must be liberated from an unrighteous king, unruly king, a nameless king, and a king without authority, a king who has no real kingdom. He has a false kingdom, a corporation. If it will wither and die as soon as the false money, as soon as the fake things that you have, that you believe that has some kind of meaning, it's all monopoly money. Your food is monopoly food, right? What you wear is made out of a monopoly thimble, right? What you drive is monopoly, is registered to a monopoly system. What you put in your hat is monopoly. It don't even cover your head, right? You know, when they had you wear the top hats, you know, when they had black folk wear top hats in chattel slavery, you wore the top hat because you were supposed to wear it to make sure that you were the Sambo. We used to call the nigga Uncle Tom. And back then, I guess Uncle Tom would have wanted, but see, if you know how the book was written, Uncle Tom was actually faking himself to be with the master, but he really was the protagonist. Sambo was the antagonist who would tell on the slaves. Right? But for those of you who only think of Uncle Tom only because you got in this twisted mindset, fine. You put on the top hat because you were supposed to be the one to show all the other slaves to look up to you as the ultimate slave, not as somebody that was free. Right? Because it's not your culture anyways. What does it look like for an African to put on the top hat? What does it look like for a Native American to put on the top hat? If your people, if we just go back to the 1500s, if your people saw you wearing what you wear, what would they say? Now, I'm not trying to say you can't wear any clothes. I'm not trying to say if you wear a suit and tie, you're a terrible person. No, hear what I'm saying. We are so far away. We're just a few hundred years removed. If your people a few hundred years ago saw you wearing what you wear, if they saw you carrying on how you carry on, if they saw you doing to your hair what you do to your hair, if they saw you getting the surgeries on your body, they saw you getting them more, what would they say about you? We talk about our ancestry all the time. The ancestors then. What would they say about you? What would great grandmama say if she knew that you was getting that BBL? What would great grandpapa say if he knew that you were lightening your skin? Oh, people don't want to go there. They wouldn't want anything to do with it. They would be upset. They would be frustrated. They would be horrified. They would be horrified. They would be aghast. Why would you do that? Why would you know, right? Like, do you know, sisters, that your natural shape is attractive and it even speaks to where you come from? All these people want your nose, and they tell you to get rid of yours, and then they need to go ahead and get procedures done on their nose so they can make them wider. Some of them try to make them skinnier too, but let's be honest, a lot of them try to make them wider. But you want to get yours skinny. You sitting up there worried about this, that, or whatever, talking about, well, I only got the A or I only got the B cup or whatever. Do you know that when you get married to the man that loves you and you mess around and y'all have a baby or two or three or four, that the things that you ain't think was there, they're going to be thanking. Sorry for saying it the way the world does, but I just need you to know, right? So why are you so stressed over it? And almost hurting yourself, and then you got to keep getting surgeries every 10 years. Because your body's not supposed to have that in there anyways, and it's not designed to last and to keep on taking care of itself and growing and going on and on and on and on. It's not designed to have cells that regenerate. Some of you, if you be honest, if you had your 15-year-old self look at your 55-year-old self that you done modified so much, some of your 15-year-old selves would be shamed at what they would see in their 55-year-old self. And that's the dichotomy. That's the argument that goes on amongst in the mind. Brothers out nowadays, trying to get surgery done so they can go ahead and have and they look crazy. Getting their six packs done, getting their chest done, having extra muscles put on that just look crazy and look wild, and can't even work out properly because you can't get real muscles, because if you were to get real muscles, it would mess up the fake muscles that you got implanted. Your arms exploding because you got too much stuff going on. It's common normalcy. Brothers are breaking their legs multiple times so that they can be 6 feet tall. They're tired of being 5'6", and they want to make sure they're 6 feet tall. Breaking the leg and then putting poles and stuff between, and then breaking the legs and putting stuff in between, and then breaking the leg and continuing the process. And they tell you as soon as they finish this, the first time, or even some time, they start saying to themselves they wish that they had lose their life, because you're on purpose hurting yourself. Do you not realize to harm yourself on purpose is the same mindset that somebody does if they take their life on purpose? I don't think people even make the connection. If you look, first of all, your body's not designed to be stabbed. If there's emergency situations, that's one thing. But your body's not designed to be stabbed. You're not supposed to poke needles into your body. If I were to take a needle and just poke it in your body would have an extreme reaction. You know why? Because it's not supposed to be poked by a needle. It's just not. right? So, right, your body's not supposed to be cut. If you accidentally had a knife and accidentally went too far into your arm, you would have an interesting reaction, wouldn't you, to say the least? Because you're not supposed to. Your body's not designed for that. But for some reason, people want to believe that they're supposed to cut their bodies up and carve it up. And by the way, when you have one surgery, they teach you this in sports. Try your best not to have a surgery, because once you have the first one, you have to have a bunch of them, don't you? Right? Anybody who plays a sport, if you get one surgery done, be ready. Here comes a bunch of them. That's why some players will just go ahead and say, I'll try to stay put and I'll just try to heal naturally if it can, right? Because once you have one done, it's only a matter of time before something's in your body, because you've opened your body. Your body's not supposed to be open like that, right? Besides openings that you've been given, you're not supposed to have a random opening in your arm or random opening. Some people getting stuff where they open up the sides of their mouths and all this foolish craziness. Once you get one, you got to have a bunch of them done. Right? But here we are opening our bodies up for what? For what? I get, once again, there's emergency situations. There could be certain things like that. But for what? Look. Discipline is what's going to cause me to go back to where I'm flatter, so to speak, in the front of my stomach. I'm already getting more solid, and maybe I'm not going to worry about having a six-pack or anything, or some of these 8-packs and stuff people be having naturally and stuff, right? But when I get flat, it's because of discipline. Or it'll just be because my body naturally, that's where it leans itself to. But I'm not going to go outside of where I'm shaped, right? Matter of fact, if I'm shaped naturally, I should go towards my natural shape. Being in shape doesn't mean I hold somebody else's shape. It means what's my natural shape. There's some, no, look, brothers, sisters, there's some of you, no matter how much you work out, some of you ain't going to get rid of hips. Because you got hips. You might need, if you want to do all the workouts and be as fast and stuff as everybody else and all this stuff, well, then you might have to do some exercises to be stronger than some of them are, because your hip movement going to take more than theirs does, right? But some of you, you're not going to get, some of you, no matter what you do, you won't get the hips, right? But there's somebody out there that will love you, especially when you learn to love you. Because loving yourself is one of the, if I might say it this way, loving yourself is one of the sexiest things you could do. My wife, loving herself, makes me love her all the more. And whatever way she is called to make sure she gets into that is something that I'm willing to go ahead and help and to protect and to acknowledge and all that stuff. But she loves her some her. And when she loves herself, it's something that's sexy. You crave that. You want somebody who is okay with themselves. Because it's two becoming one. And I don't want to become one with somebody who only is focused on negative. It's all right every once in a while. Look, I'm going to focus on negative every once in a while too. I'm going to have a bad day. I'm going to have a day where, I don't like the way I look. I don't like this is going on. I don't like my teeth. I don't like blah, blah. But every once in a while, I should be able to look in the mirror at least every once in a while and say, you know what, bro, you looking all right. You know what, bro, like your wife loved the way you look. The Most High loved the way you look. Why don't you love the way you look? Okay, cool. I'm just, you know what, you're right. I like you, Kofi. That was hard for me to do for a long time in my life, to just look in the mirror and be like, I like you, Kofi. You all right. You handsome. Even if nobody think you are, you can be handsome, right? You can say the same thing about yourself. You can say you're handsome. You can say you're beautiful. You can say you're cute, or whatever your names are for yourself, whatever you want to say about yourself. I'm just saying, it's all right for you to be able to realize that you got it going on. Come on, made in Yah's image. And some of us, though, don't like Yah's image. Because when you don't like your image, you won't like Yah's image. Somebody says, no, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, it does. Because you're made in his image. If you don't like you, then you can't like him. That's why you love Elohim with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. But second like it is this. The second like it is this. It might not be on the same level, but the second like it is this. To love your neighbor, true, as you love yourself. How do you love your neighbor if you don't love yourself? And how do you love your neighbor if you don't know how Yah loves your neighbor or loves you? And therefore, how can you love your neighbor if you don't love you in a similar fashion to the way that Yah loves you? You know, I've noticed that there's children that I'll just walk past. Sometimes I don't even meet. Sometimes I don't even have conversation with them. I'm blessed to be able to meet a lot of the babies of SOC and stuff like that. But a lot of times there's children I walk past and I'll see that they stare at me. And they look at me and they start smiling, and I start realizing sometimes they see me in them, or especially like young brothers that have hair that's free, free hanging or free locks, or sometimes they're growing their own locks or whatever the case, even if they're not free lock, whatever. And they'll look at me for a second, and then we kind of have this moment where it's like I can tell what's going on. Where same thing I used to do, and I used to cut my hair and stuff. Unfortunately, I should have never started doing that, but you start looking at, they look at you, you look at them, and you're like, yeah, it's okay. Right? Like they look at you and they're like, oh, I guess, yeah, it's okay to have this. Like there's adults like to have this and stuff. And there's people that have this. And this, yeah, I guess, you're married. They see my wife and they go, okay, she's got locks too. And they see Solomon, he's got, okay, there's a family. And so that means there's a woman out there that thinks that, when I see teenage boys, they look at me, they're like, oh, okay, I guess. They look at you like, yeah, I guess it's possible. Right? There's sisters that see my wife's hair. I love your hair. Right? And they'll stop and they'll look. Right? And they see that, right? There's people that are looking at you. And if you would be yourself, there's somebody out there that's like, yeah, you know what? Being who I am naturally, it makes sense. Yeah, I be seeing you and your family, Bruda. That's a beautiful thing, right? My son likes to look at other little boys, and now he's around other people, hangs around other people, hangs around a lot of people who believe what we believe. Praise Yah. But at first, when you make this step, a lot of times, many of us are not in a family environment. Unfortunately, now it's starting to become more regular, but we don't have people that always believe what we believe. And so my son, it used to be a big deal for him because all the boys he was around, cutting their hair, doing this, blah, blah. But when he started seeing other people online, and then he started actually hanging out with people, and then he started seeing, oh, okay, everybody's into this. It was like, oh, okay, this is natural, because people try to make him feel bad, even if they don't try to. Society, like, still to this day, this boy about to turn 9 years old soon, and people still be like, people still in their mind be on some stuff talking about some, oh, hey, how is she? Like, he don't even look like a girl, no way, shape, or form. Ain't got no girl body, none of that. But they'll still do that. How is she? Yeah, he's in his 8s, he'll soon be in his 9s, right? Right? But they'll still be like, oh, how is she? And he just look. Now he's gotten used to it, but it's like because they're not in his culture and their way of seeing us, we must have short hair. Matter of fact, the person that was coming up on here earlier, one of them, I've had like 5, 6, 7 people just on YouTube today, let alone other places, trying to say craziness about me today. But what was one of them came on today? One of their questions was, are you, how does it feel being gay? That was the first thing coming out their mouth. And they're saying it, I guess, because I have long hair. Right? But for you to have long hair, once again, people have made you feel like it's a curse. They even try to pull out 1 Corinthians chapter 11, I believe? When 1 Corinthians chapter 11 isn't even talking about this. It says, it is not our custom. Paul says it's not even how we live. He said, I'm talking to you guys who are Corinthians. That's not even how we live. Right? So you have to recognize that part of what we're doing is to resurrect culture. To go back to who we are. Amen? So, unless you guys have a question for me at this point, to be honest with you, I don't really have anything else for today. It's family day, and I do have to make one call. It was probably not even as long as I'd like to make the call, but at least make a call to check in with somebody who I appreciate and should have called a while ago, but just to call them and check in real quick, and then get ready also to those of you who won the contest a couple weekends ago. Make sure that you guys can have your stuff to you. Praise God. So I got to get ready to go. But unless you guys have a question, you guys have any question now. If it's like a long answer or something that I can't think I can answer somewhat quickly, we'll probably let it ride till Thursday. Thursday will be our next Q&A session, and we'll start putting some stuff up, Tuesday night, Wednesday-ish, to make sure you guys can go ahead and put all your questions that you might have together. But Thursday will be our next Q&A session. But if there is any questions, possibly about what we talked about today, or maybe it's something I can answer very quickly without having to kind of go through, or maybe even, to be honest, maybe even research some before I start putting my mouth on it, so to speak, let us know. But are there any questions, comments, concerns? You said your son is 11. They do that sneak this all the time. Have to tell him why. Yeah, he's never going to cut it. Yeah, exactly. Right? Well, Look, when Solomon gets of age, when he's released, prayerfully the teachings will show him why he doesn't need to touch his hair. But that's also too because of the covenant thing, right? So, have to teach him about that covenant, teach him about those things, and really at that point, if he decides that he wants to do that on his own and he's not of that covenant or of that belief system, because I'm growing mine. I'm not even growing mine only specifically, although I do match a lot of this stuff. So I might as well say that I have the. When people ask me, I just pretty much say I have the Nazarite vow. Even though that's not technically why I started growing the long hair, it was a vow to the Most High. It was more so a vow to Him as far as strength, and strength more so as far as strength in giving the word. But over time, it pretty much is becoming Nazarite vow. But yeah, but I'm going to teach him about the stuff, but there's a vow that went with him that his mother and I made to the Most High on his behalf. And that's why his hair is not cut. And so if he cuts his hair, he just needs to know that part of the vow probably is he's not protected under it, right? But anyways, though, unless anybody has any quick questions, comments, or concerns for me, I will let you guys take your leave, as I will. We are usually on a little bit longer, but I'm trying to make sure that I'm better. As you guys recall, we're trying to make sure we're better with time and stuff. So I've been ending and stopping the word about 10:30 to 10:45ish. If we go to 11 is pretty much when the word is done. We've gone longer. I'm trying to make sure that we kind of get back to, making sure that things are within a certain time frame they're supposed to be. But if there's anybody who does want to, does have questions, and yes, number 6, is where the Nazarite vow comes from. But if there is any quick question, comment, or concern that we can get to real quick, I don't mind it. I just want to make sure before we leave out if there is any question, comment, or concern. If not, please, ma'am, please, sir, love yourselves. It's 11:11. Thank you, 11:11, baby, if you're on. And I'm sorry, what you said? What do I say? Persons sometimes instead of people, because person is singular, persons is plural, and people actually means nation. So a lot of us have just been taught to say people, and maybe because you see people, other persons, and you consider them to be part of your nation, you just randomly say people. But technically, if you're not part of the same nation, then or even if you are part of the same nation, a person is singular. Persons is more than one person. A lot of persons can make up a nation, a people. So when I'm talking about Israel, or when I'm talking about specific things, especially the teaching, you'll hear me make the distinction because I want you to focus on nation. So I'll say people. I'm just talking about a bunch of persons, plural, then I'll say persons, plural, right? So that's why we say that. It's a lawful term as well. So, I'm a lot about law. So in my mind, it just kind of helps me to keep that in there, that if I see something written about people, we the people, then I have to figure out what persons are they talking about? Because if I'm not one of those persons, I can't be one of those people. So therefore, I have to be sovereign to be protected by the Constitution. See, a black person, if you will, if you want to use that term, we must be sovereign because the Constitution wasn't talking about us as a part of the nation, as a people. So I have to become a natural person, or a real person, if you will, not an artificial person only, but I have to be a natural person, and that natural person is supposed to be protected by certain constitutional values, because the Constitution doesn't protect artificial persons. Well, where my people come from, my nation, where I come from, we were dismissed as persons. So they consider, even though we're a people, they consider us to be an artificial people or an artificial nation. This is why they signed all these contracts and these with us, and then broke every single one. Because what's a real contract to a fake person or a fake nation? You see what I'm saying? So just for my proper education and what helps me to comprehend where I'm at and stuff, I pay attention to things like that. People even say it, even not knowing it. You'll hear people say stuff like that. Well, these persons or people, it'll slip out every once in a while. Pay attention, because they've been taught to use that phraseology in certain situations, and we don't even catch it. But yes, a person can be a natural person or artificial person. Persons can be natural persons or artificial persons. A people, if you're not careful, can be an artificial people, corporation, or a natural people, right? So now we start talking about natural people, we got to talk about the Hashadah. We got to talk about, right, like a black person, although I don't mind being called black, I know what black is, but if I go into law, technically, unless you're talking about a particular type of black, there is no actual black person or there's a black person that's a natural person, unless you're talking about a black person that's part of a black people. So Cushitic people are actually black people, because a Cushitic person is by law a part of a Cushitic people. Cush meaning black, right? An Ethiopian is a person blackened by the sun. So therefore, you could say they're a black person, a natural black person, as well as also a natural people, a country, a nation that is called Ethiopian, blackened people. There's a group of people called slippery blacks, blackened people. Even Nubian people, blackened people. Khalifa, Californians, the original Californian people, a nation. They were Californian persons. The Khalifa persons who were part of the Khalifa people, they are actually black people, right? So we can recognize like what these people call themselves and say to call them and how they identify with themselves, right? But if I say I'm a black American, well, a black American is not necessarily a natural American, but a copper-colored person. You say, well, that's pretty close, right? Well, yes, but see, now we're talking about law, what they call themselves, what they are called by, what they are recognized by, what they are sovereign in, right? So that's why I say you need to be private to say I establish myself as this part of my nation. And then if you are Cushitic, if you are Kemetic, if you are Israelite, because Israelite even mixed with Cush, if you don't like that, or mixed with Nubian, or mixed with Kemet, right? You still have to talk about the blackness. Black is the tense of Kedar. So now when we talk about that, that's in our DNA, now even lawfully. That's why if you study in the late 1800s, the early 1900s, even when people were trying to get reparations back then, the reason why so many people became this modern version of black Hebrew Israelites is because they weren't called that back then, but black people who knew what Israelites looked like at that time, let alone going back into ancient antiquity and knowing that we had actually established Hebrew type nations free in the Americas, even after chattel slavery. So what they did was they said, hey, if this is our culture, you should be able to pay us reparations and allow us to be a nation, because you're supposed to pay nations reparations. So if you weren't a freedman, and you weren't allowed to be a freedman anymore, but you still want to be an Israelite and receive reparations, they tried to use that. That's where that whole 12 tribes map comes from, and they say these people, the Puerto Ricans are this tribe, and this people are that tribe, even though we know it's not supposed to be tribes, it's supposed to be branches, but that's where that comes from. And that was kind of a lie, because they didn't really believe that, but they were trying to use real life situations to be like, hey, give us reparations, because we're Israelites. If you go over to Israel at that time, you can even see this on recordings going to the 1800s. If you go into Israel at that time, you will see that up until 1940s, everybody that lives there looks like us. Now, even though we had been scattered, so we can't say everybody there was us, there's still a contingency of us that live there that look like us and wear stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? And are wearing fringes and things like that walking around. So we know what they look like even to the 1940s, right? So when I say person, persons, people, nation, black people, black person, so-called people, when you hear me use those terms, yeah, I'm being very specific as far as law and very specific as far as like actuality. Yeah. Great question. But yeah, so you hear me said it a lot. I'm making the point. If I say person, I'm saying singular. If I'm saying persons, I'm saying plural, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm talking about a nation. But if I say people, I'm being very, very sensitive to the fact that I mean nation, right? So that's what I mean. And even black, by the way, even with that, like in Haiti, you know that when Haiti got independence, Haiti became a free, independent people. And they said only people that we recognize as Haitian, right? Part of the people that we recognize, part of the thing that makes you Haitian in our eyes is you must be a black people. But watch this. You had German Hessians who were so-called white who had fought with us in Haiti. And they said what they'll do. They said what we'll do with that is, since you fought with us, we will recognize you as what? Black people. If you will be in our nation and live under it and be grafted into us and become family and stuff, then we will consider you, since you fought with us and fought for righteousness, you are now one of our people. This is not an old ancient Israelite thing only I'm talking about. This natural stuff. We didn't think about somebody was born somewhere and they had a birth certificate, and so they had to be registered there and they had to give up who they were and they were automatically considered to be something else. No, that's new. That's his new American thing. This is new 14th Amendment thing. This is new 1900s thing. This is wherever who you're born to or who you marry into, and the laws that you come under is who you become or who you are. So I'm Israelite no matter where I'm born. Solomon is Israelite no matter where he's born. And if Solomon has a baby in Rome, that is not a Roman baby. That is an Israelite baby. or an Italian baby. It's not an Italian baby, that's an Israelite baby. I don't care if Solomon messed around and his wife had the baby at the Vatican. That is not a Vatican baby. That is an Israelite baby. Why? Because him and his wife and his father and his mother, and prayerfully her father and her mother, etc., all of us are followers of the way. So it doesn't matter where my grandbaby is born, he's going to be Israelite. Because wherever my feet tread, and he'll have, you see what I'm saying? That's the way that works. That's the way that works. You said I didn't know that's where they get that from. I couldn't buy into it because it said he scattered his people. Man can never undo what Yah's done. Well, yeah. Well, Yah did scatter the people himself too. Or at least he gave the warning. Remember, a curse just says if you're separate of something, this is what will happen to you. So even curses technically are lawful, right? If you disobey the law, there's procedural law. There's something that must happen to you, and remedial law. There's a remedy that if something in the procedure kicks you out, you can be grabbed back in. But Israel was never only Israel because of land. Israel was Israel because the people would come there, right? Right. That's the only thing. Even Jerusalem, Yahashalalem, it comes from Shalom, right? Or Salam or Salem. People try to say the same word, Shalom, and people try to say that or not try to say Methuselah, no, Melchizedek was the king of Shalom or the king of peace. And then when we came in there, Yahashalalem or Jerusalem, if you will, just means Yah is now the head of peace. But he was already the head of peace because Melchizedek was Yah's priest, and he was also the king over peace. So he being the king under the king, right? A king under the king, he gets the land of peace. When we came in there, we just came into what was already Yah's. But this time it was promised not only to us, but was promised even to Abram. And Abram himself had given the tithe into the storehouse that was where? In the king's place of peace. So all we did was just come to what was already promised to the children of those whose father had given the tithe. So it was never about even the Israelite blood as much as it was. This was a place that Yah had already decided would be his. And then the Israelite blood was for those, of course, who are followers of the way. It is our culture, it is our mandate, it is our mentality to follow his law and follow his ways. So that which Abram had already paid a tithe to, it was always for those children. But also remember when Solomon builds the temple as well, he asked that anybody, right? That was always the case. Why can he say that? Why can anybody who faces this temple and prays be blessed and be under the same law and be part of the same country, the same nation? Because that was always the case. Anybody obedient to this, we become Israel. Right? How you doing grading in X? Yeah. So yeah. Any other questions? Real quick question. I am going to get ready to take my leave and get out you guys' way. And hopefully you guys are doing well. We'll see you tomorrow. Any other questions real quick? If not, if it's long questions and stuff, like I said, Thursday, we're going to do Q&A, so get ready to go ahead and have those questions ready. As you can see, we are back, at our home. So I am still looking for one of the devices that I usually use for our calls, but we'll prayerfully be able to take your calls again for Q&A for the first time in a long time. But anything else real quick before we take our leave? If not, we're going to go ahead and roll out. Someone was asking if I speak on divorce. Sure. I'm not sure exactly what the question is, though, so I don't know if the person wants to put something specific in. Because if not, I'm just going to give you kind of a all over the place answer or a very broad answer. Because there's a lot of different things that happen with divorce. We kind of try to make divorce just the end real quick. That was it. They just mentioned divorce. Okay. So real quick, I just have to assume some things. Assumptions can kind of get us in trouble, but I just have to assume some things very quickly. Basically, I'm assuming maybe it's something like, is divorce okay? These are the most common questions. Is divorce okay? Can a woman get divorced? Can you only get, or are you only allowed to get a divorce if somebody cheats? And then what does divorce actually do? Now, nobody really asked that question, but that's just something I commonly say because that's something we should make sure that we are aware of. So just real quick, I'll just kind of answer those because that's usually kind of where we end up, unless it's something specific you're asking about your specific situation. So when it comes to divorce, Can you, is divorce lawful? Is it legal? Is it something the Most High wants? The answer is yes. At the same time, if we are doing things culturally correctly from the beginning and training people up correctly, it wouldn't be something that would even pop up. I mean, maybe percentage-wise, 1%, 2%, something like that, but it wouldn't if we actually treated marriage the way it's supposed to be treated. We don't teach marriage from childhood, and we don't teach people how to be men. We don't teach people how to be pre-qualified to be husbands and wives. We don't teach people how to be women. We don't teach people how to be qualified to be pre-qualified to be mothers and fathers. So a lot of stuff will happen. But yes, is divorce something that is lawful? Yes. The only say is it was never part of Yah's will or His plan. Obviously, comes out of imperfection, right? And obviously, if you're talking about divorce, yeah, Yahashua still, as do I, if possible, would hope that you would have reconciliation, right? Even if it be separation or divorce, we would hope and pray that there be some way that it can come back into play. Now, what is divorce lawful though? Yes. Now, when is it lawful? So people will try to tell you, oh yeah, you can only get a divorce if somebody cheats. That's not the case. Divorce, if you look in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, starting at verse 27, if you read through 27 through 32, I believe it is verses 31 and 32, but just to be safe, read Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 32. It tells you that you can be divorced for two reasons, right? And one is more broad than the other. And really, both of them are more broad than what we talk about. But you can be divorced, number one, because of adultery, right? Adultery meaning that you're in a marriage and you cheat. That means that you broke contract. If you broke contract, unless you decide to pick the contract back up with each other, at that point, you can leave the person. Forgive them, right? But then forgive them so you can release them and release yourself from it, but then let them go and do what you do. If you're going to be with the person or you're going to still try to figure it out or whatever, then you're not ready to be divorced. Just being honest. You pray about it, take some time. You don't have to, well, they divorced, I got to make my mind up in 2 days or 2 hours or whatever. No, like take your time, right? Don't take so much time where you're in a relationship for 3 years to where you're not doing anything either way, and now you're trying to think about cheating or letting go, or you guys don't talk to each other, right? But and by the way, get with somebody. Make sure that you have somebody you can talk to through this that's trusted, that knows the way, etc. But so you have divorce because of adultery. But then the second one, which really is mentioned first, but the second one is also because of fornication. Now, people think that fornication means that that's sex before you get married. A lot of times in the American modern black church, you'll even hear people say stuff like shacking up. But fornication is not having sex before marriage only. It is part of it, but fornication is from a word that actually is porneia or porneia in the Greek, which is pornography. So something pornographic means it's a false image of marriage. So pornography doesn't mean you're watching something online only, right? Pornography means a false image of marriage. This is why if you think about fornicating or you think about adultery in your mind, you have already committed fornication or adultery in your mind. You have a false image of marriage, right? You're lying to yourself about what marriage is between the Most High, right? So fornication runs deeper than just adultery. Adultery is cheating, but fornication is false image. So there's a lot of things that we have false images of in marriage. What a husband's responsibility is, what a wife's responsibility is. What does submission mean? It's not submission submitted to a man, nor is it submission submitted to a woman, but it is submission. What is a husband and wife in our culture? Because not every man, you don't become a husband in our culture when you get married. You don't become a wife in our culture when you get married. You are supposed to be a husband already, and in your being a husband in your work, you will find a wife who is already a wife. And then there's a process you go through to make sure that you're prepared for each other. Not prepared by dating everybody else, because we don't date. But once you realize this is a person that you guys have agreement on, your families have agreement on, dowry is paid, a lot of different moving pieces, then you start preparing yourselves for each other and not trying to figure out off of all the dates I've had with everybody else, how are we gonna make this work? All the positions I used to get in the bedroom with all these other chicks, how am I gonna make sure I treat my wife like that? She's not a chick, she's not a chicken. You know what I'm saying? She's not a baby chick. She's not a baby chicken, right? She's a woman. And she's a woman that should be chased. And she's a woman that's chased and does all this stuff. So in that situation, right, where you're dealing with this, is divorce lawful? Like, yeah, but it's coming from a lot of different other things. And the hope would be that you're not doing this. But if you're dealing with a whole bunch of stuff, including, what is a husband? if you're doing certain things, if you're thinking outside your marriage, if you're setting things up where you're doing things, if you're mistreating somebody, if you're abusing somebody, there's a lot of levels to fornication. We just go, right, it's very easy, cut and dry for us, and we are very misogynistic. So we just go, yeah, if you're a man, you can't be divorced, or you make the decision about divorce, and then we try to find all these scriptures to back it up. But the reality is that if you were mistreating your wife should be protected. Matter of fact, if you actually look at scripture, the reason why divorce even comes into play is because of misogyny. There were men who were abusing this thing and abusing women, and even taking the lives of their women, or getting their women to run away, right, or their wives. And when they didn't treat them like wives, but they were doing this to them if they didn't like them, or they wanted to get a divorce, whatever. Sometimes they would take their life, or they would lie about them. They would say they were cheating when they weren't. They would say all types of stuff. They would say they weren't doing their wifely duties, not just as far as the bedroom, but other stuff. And so they were able to, a lot of times, take the life of these women. And so protection needs to be put in place. This is why Moses is allowed to say, go ahead and get divorced, deal with divorce. But it was never Yah's will that we have divorce. And it also was never Yah's will that we go outside of culture, which is what causes a lot of divorces to happen. So divorce was never the plan. It was never Yah's plan. It was never his plan for us to have sin, therefore to need divorce in the first place, because divorce should be because sin has entered in, not just because, right? So it was never his plan for it to happen. And it's not his plan for it to continue. And we can be curse breakers, and we can make sure that we teach these babies correctly and reteach ourselves so that we don't lose something as valuable and awesome as marriage. That being said, is it lawful? Unfortunately, we have to say yes. And for the lawful reasonings, not just because you feel like leaving, but for lawful reasoning. But yeah, if you're somebody who's getting abused, or if you're somebody who has been lied to over and over again. If somebody is manipulated, it could be something as far as manipulation. Once again, you need to get a rabbi or a pastor or a chelet or a morach, or somebody who's familiar with law, ministers, etc. Somebody who's familiar with law and how this works and how to interpret law correctly, and make sure that they can interpret your situation and bring it before the Most High. We can pray about it and all that. And even still with that, if somebody's doing it righteously, their first inclination should always be, how can we help this to reconcile? If you get to a place where it can't be reconciled, that exists. But our first responsibility is still reconciliation, right? Also, too, then there's a process past that, because once you get divorced, it doesn't stop there. There's cleansing. You got to go back to now you can't deal with yourself. You got to make some decisions. Like, this is stuff that happens with men and women, right? Like, you got to go through a process of purification. You have to go through a process of, eliminating certain behaviors, and you got to go back to being chaste again. Even if not physically, even though your body will physically start to do some things because you're not having sex with yourself anymore, or somebody else not having sex with you, even though certain things will happen to you physically that are getting you close back to what you were when you were chaste as a male or a female. Also, spiritually and emotionally, you have to get to a place where you're no longer tied to what somebody else used to do. Whether we're talking about what they did in the bedroom, whether they're talking about because you were only supposed to have one partner. So that means that therefore what you did with somebody else, somebody else and you were never supposed to experience that. Unfortunately, you have to now, right? It doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Y'all can still use these things for righteousness, but I'm just saying, you have to have some clear-cut conversation even. You have to get free from some of those things, because maybe there's some things that mentally you can't get rid of and that you feel like you have to have, and this person is going to have to try their best to make sure that they give you that, because that's just where you were. And you weren't in a position, maybe you got cheated on or whatever, and you weren't expecting to have to try and do this with somebody else, and now you got to do it. Or, hey, you liked your house to look a certain way. There was a way that you had everybody in order in your family and structured, and now all of a sudden somebody's coming, and you know that this is a husband that's going to be new, and he probably wants stuff different, but you still have to have this type of structure. Is this person willing to humble themselves to even somewhat take up what your last husband had, and then still somehow phase in his stuff too, right? Like, you have to have these conversations. So divorce, and then on top of that, divorce is something that hurts a lot too, because unlike death, because divorce was actually a way of dealing with people who would not just commit treason, but they would, forgive me, I should know this from the military, not when you go AWOL, but when you leave and when you desert. It was a way of dealing with deserters. A lot of people don't know the word divorce doesn't even have the word we use for divorce doesn't even come from marriage. It actually comes from leaving an army, right? So if you were with the Roman army, excuse me, and then you decided to leave the Roman army, then that would be divorce. Die meaning separation. Even when somebody dies, D-I-E, we add the E on it, but even when somebody dies, we're saying that the soul and the spirit are separated from the body, right? To be absent from the body, that when you die is to be present with the Lord. So your flesh dies, but your spirit and your soul, they go on to glory, prayerfully, right? So divorce is actually talking about that somebody is separated or is separated from the army. They leave. And when they leave the army, right, you committed treason. So you deserve death. You deserve to die. Right? That's where the divorce comes. The word divorce actually comes from somebody leaving the fight. We are in this fight together, and somebody decides it's more important for them to leave and do their own thing, or not be willing to put their life on the line for the family or for their unit. And when they do that, if we catch you again, you're a traitor, and you deserve what? To die. So when you have divorce, you basically have somebody, one or both people sometimes even, but if it's one person that cheated or one person that was doing something that was wrong or whatever, or two people that ultimately did something and betrayed one another, you have two traitors that both feel like the other person should die, but that's why you got to go through purification, die to yourself, let that marriage go, and be separate, because you might run into the person again, or you might see reminders of them, or what if you run into your children from time to time that you might not be able to have custody or whatever, right? Like you have two people who are going through a death. When you get divorced, anybody who's been in divorce will tell you, it hurts. I don't care how righteous you were, right? I don't care how righteous you were. It hurts when you think you're going to be with somebody till death do you part, and you're not, because that was the goal. You dedicated your entire life, how you doing, Bradley, to what? To being one with one person, and now all of a sudden somebody's cutting you, like King Solomon had threatened to do with the child. Somebody's cut you in half, and you're trying to figure out how to heal. You had given up being one within yourself to being one with somebody else, and now you're no longer with that, right? So you have to go through a purification process after that. People don't tell you about that part. Like, you got to go through being purified, getting back to yourself. What did y'all want you to do? Were you righteous to get in that marriage in the first place? And if not, what part did you play in that? Because that's a sin, it's a fall short. Or were there things that you did that caused different things that if you were put in a marriage, including the marriage with Yah, again, that you shouldn't be doing to him or to anybody else you would be married to. Like all these different things. You see what I'm saying? So you have to get to a place, and once again, it goes back to righteousness, purification, and what did we not get trained in or taught, or what are we not living that we should have been living from the beginning, or even before we found a wife, or even before the wife was found by her husband, or even before we decided to become one. Right? So there's a lot of it. Like I said, that's a broad answer, but usually that kind of answers a lot of what people ask. But divorce is a broad subject because marriage is a broad subject, right? Because in our culture, really, marriage, people just think about the institution of marriage, but sex is marriage, marriage is sex, two becoming one. Now, out of that institution gives certain things to you, and you should be worthy of marriage because of the things that you do. But marriage, technically, is just sex. In the Bible, K-N-O-W, to know somebody, that means they laid down, they had sex. And if you're going to lay down and have sex, you have to be pre-qualified. You already have to be a husband or a wife to do so. So sex is marriage, marriage is sex. The marriage is not as hard as the things that have to be done to protect the marriage and help the marriage to grow. That's why the bed is undefiled, because two becoming one is natural. Whatever two, not three being in there, not four, not five, not we think it's two, but somebody sneaking a third one in there. Not like what the babies learn, there's two in the marriage, not five, right? Right? For the seventh commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery. That's how they learned it, two, not five in a relationship, right? Y'all didn't say five people, you said two, not five, right? But that's not what it's. Married, the bedroom is undefiled because the two that go in there, they become one. And Yah goes in there as well, a threefold cord now is not so easily broken. That's not the problem with your bedchamber and stuff is not the problem with the bedchamber is if you're coming there with somebody else in your mind, or you're coming in there with other things that happen, or if you're coming there trying to bring other people and stuff like that, because marriage is basically two becoming one. That's all marriage really is. All this, you think that marriage is walking down the aisle, you think marriage is a certificate. No, if you're married to somebody, you're tethered to them mind, body, spirit, soul, and body. You have two people becoming one, and your spirit, your two souls being tied to each other. Your flesh, literally, the blood, the semen of one, the blood, the hymen of the other, right? Going into each other, the other person, and then you have the spiritual bond. Now you still will, when you get into heaven, you'll have to answer for your own stuff as far as an individual, as far as your spirits, but your spirits are connected by the soul ties that you had. So, like I said, it's a much. I'm giving a broad answer here that usually answers a lot that people might have, but if it's about specifics, that's why I say if I'm not answering the specific question, you just have to let me know. Another point. You said in marriage, when a man or a woman says they would leave their husband or wife for a certain superstar actor is a great example. Yeah, or something like that, you know. But there's particulars, like I said, and a lot of stuff we don't like to go through law, nor do we like to go through leadership. If somebody's getting a divorce, you're supposed to go through leadership anyways to make sure you're doing it correctly. So if somebody knows how marriage works, how the laws of marriage work, things like that, it should be able to, help you out with anything further than that. All right. But thank you all for being on. Appreciate you. We thank you all. We're going to go ahead and take our leave now. We appreciate you. So you guys have a great day. I think I got one person I got to make a call to. It won't be able to be as long as I'd like, but at least we can link up a little bit, talk real quick, and chop it up. Those of you who are waiting on stuff to be sent out to you, I'm going to try and start looking at getting it out to you tomorrow. I told you guys if I couldn't make it by Friday or Saturday anyways, it's probably going to be improbable that I'd be able to send it. So we'll look at trying to get that stuff to you out, start tomorrow. And tomorrow we have Early Rise of Bible Study Session, 6:30 a.m. Eastern New York time. Let me see if I have one here who's actually going to be speaking. I think we do. Tomorrow, I believe it should be Minister Tamara. Praise God. So prayerfully you'll be able to join us for a word given by her. The music will start at 6:30, and then the actual word will be given out starting about 6:45 or so. And we'll be finished sometime around 7:45 or maybe a little earlier, depending how the Holy Spirit leads. And then from there, we will go to 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. We'll be before you live again. Don't forget, our actual Q&A session will be on Thursday. So Thursday, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time, live session on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, etc. We'll be there. We'll try to set it up where we can take phone calls as well. But if you want to start giving us your questions, we'll try to start putting places online on Tuesday evening after the live session that you can reach out to us in. I will try my best. It'll at least be up by Wednesday. I might have a family situation that I might have to take care of at about 9 o'clock on Tuesday. So if you don't see it by Tuesday, by Wednesday for sure, in the Rising, you'll be able to see all the stuff that's on there. Minister Tamara will be giving the word again on Wednesday evening on her platform. We got to figure out where exactly or how exactly it's going down. I'm sorry, sis, I haven't been able to reach out to you about that. But we'll try to support her wherever she might be. And then on Thursday's Q&A or something. Oh, excuse me. Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. I'll try to have some music playing about 7:45. But at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, we're going to do our makeup Passover. So the makeup for our Passover event, we'll do that on Tuesday, 8 p.m. That'll be the 14th day of this second month. By the way, every Tuesday right now is Shabbat anyways, if you're following Shabbat by the Hebrew calendar. So, but at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time on that Tuesday, we shall meet. Please, man, please, sir, if you can be there. Even if you've done Passover with us before and even did it with us before this year, there's nothing that says you can't join us for a second one. We'll do it and treat it as a regular live session, but we'll have some a little extra setup and a special word for you all just for that evening. But the music, we'll probably have some music playing. I might even start a little earlier, but at least by 7:45 p.m. Eastern New York time on Thursday, we'll start some music playing, and prayerfully you can join us for a great word. And if not, then more than likely, since it'll be treated like a regular session, it should be recorded and be posted in different places for you to find. All right. But thank you all again. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. I know on Sundays we go a little longer. We're going to do a shout out, by the way. If you don't know how the shout out works, if you've never done a shout out with us, just stick around for a little bit and we'll go ahead and get into it out in just a second. Thank you guys, by the way, who've been sharing the live session, who've been faithful, obedient. I know they have made it, and you guys have told me over and over again. My wife has told me, many of you have told me, it's been very hard to find us on any of these platforms, especially on TikTok recently. It's been very difficult to find us on here. Uh-oh. That's weird. Okay, I was about to say our logo was missing. Anyway, but I know it's been difficult to find us. Thank you so much for trying to find us. Hashtag find Kofi. That's why we put it there. Hashtag SOC. Hashtag SOC hasn't been around as long as hashtag find Kofi. That's why we use that one. But nevertheless, thank you guys for listening in. Appreciate you. Thanks for sharing the lives, all that stuff. Remember, it's always recorded on YouTube. And we'll be back with you ASAP. So hopefully, if we don't see you tomorrow for Early Rise of Bible Study session, we'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time for the live session. And we appreciate you all. We give our honor and praise to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim, as always. We give our honor and praise to him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We thank everybody for being on again. We appreciate you. Shalom. Enjoy your first day of the week. May peace be upon you for the rest of this week. And as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember, as always, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Peace. Take care.